Allen Iverson. The chaos started at a bowling alley in Hampton, Virginia, back in February of 1993. Iverson was only 17, but he was already a standout in both football and basketball. That night, a fight broke out involving dozens of people after someone allegedly threw a racial slur at Iverson's group. It turned into a full-blown brawl with chairs flying. Somehow, despite the crowd being a mix of both black and white individuals, only Iverson and 3 of his black friends were charged. Prosecutors hit them with a law meant to fight lynching, charging them with maiming by mob. Iverson got tried as an adult and sentenced to 15 years, but 10 were suspended. He served 4 months in a correctional facility before getting conditional clemency from the governor. The court later overturned the conviction, saying there just wasn't enough evidence to prove he was trying to maim anyone. The whole thing tore through the Hampton community and lit up national media. A lot of people saw it as an ugly example of racial injustice. Years later, ESPN even made a documentary about it. That one incident didn't just affect Iverson's life, it became a lens into much deeper issues. Dennis Rodman. Back in August of 1999, he got busted for public drunkenness after an altercation at a California bar. He spent the night in jail, but the charges disappeared. A few months later, he and Carmen Electra were both arrested after a domestic dispute that ended with dropped charges and temporary restraining orders. December rolled around, and Rodman got arrested again, this time for driving under the influence and having no valid license. He pleaded guilty, paid fines, and went through a treatment program. Then came April of 2004, and Las Vegas police picked him up for another drunk driving incident. He took a deal, paid a fine, and served 30 days under home detention. In 2008, he was arrested again for domestic violence after an incident at a Los Angeles hotel. He pleaded no contest and got probation, counseling, and community service. In 2018, he was arrested for driving under the influence again. That led to probation. Then in 2019, he was accused of helping steal items from a yoga studio and charged separately for battery after allegedly slapping a man. And in 2024, a lawsuit accused him of assault. Delonte West. Back in September of 2009, he got pulled over in Maryland riding a 3-wheeled motorcycle. Inside a guitar case, police found 3 loaded guns, including a shotgun and 2 pistols. He pleaded guilty and got probation, community service, and counseling. Fast forward to October of 2021, he was arrested in Florida for banging on a police station door while holding open containers of beer and vodka. The charges? Disorderly intoxication and resisting arrest. Then, in June of 2024, things escalated. Police tried serving him a warrant in Virginia, but he ran and was later found unresponsive. Narcan had to be used twice for what appeared to be an opioid overdose. He was hit with multiple misdemeanors and released on bond. A few months later, in November, he got arrested again for trespassing in a restricted area. There was video evidence, and again, he was released after posting bond. He was scheduled for court in June and July, but by the end of July, several charges were dropped. West's legal troubles are tangled up in a long battle with bipolar disorder and substance abuse. He's publicly struggled, despite past support and rehab efforts. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Charles Barkley. In December of 1991, after a game in Milwaukee, Barkley got into it with some guys outside a bar who were heckling him. He punched one of them and broke the guy's nose. That landed him in jail for a few hours, but a jury ended up clearing him. Then in October of 1997, down in Orlando, he got pelted with ice after refusing an autograph. Barkley didn't brush it off. He threw the guy through a plate glass window. He got arrested and charged with aggravated battery and resisting arrest. His only regret? Not throwing the guy from a higher floor. Then came December of 2008 in Scottsdale, Arizona. He ran a stop sign, flunked a sobriety test, and was arrested for driving under the influence. He pleaded guilty and got 10 days in jail, which dropped to 3 after he completed treatment. He did his time at Tent City in March of 2009. He also racked up a $400,000 gambling debt in Vegas that nearly turned into criminal charges before he paid it off. Barkley's admitted to being arrested multiple times and credits his wife for sticking with him through it all. Glenn Davis. On May 9, 2024, he was sentenced to 40 months in federal prison for helping scam the NBA players' health and benefit welfare plan out of over $5 million. Davis, along with others, submitted fake medical and dental claims. One of the more ridiculous ones, he claimed to get dental work done in Beverly Hills while actually traveling from Las Vegas to Paris. In November of the previous year, he was found guilty of healthcare fraud, wire fraud, and making false statements. His punishment didn't stop at prison. He also got hit with 3 years of supervised release, had to pay $80,000, and was required to take financial management classes and go through drug treatment programs. His prison date was pushed from September to October so he could finish a documentary about his life, which the court hoped might help with his financial mess. Davis, who played 9 seasons in the league and scored over 4,000 points, was known just as much for his big personality as for his play. But this part of his story turned out to be less about basketball and a lot more about fraud and consequences. Jason Williams. On February 14, 2002, he shot and killed limousine driver Kostas Christofi at his New Jersey mansion. The driver had just brought Williams' charity basketball team from an event, and during a house tour, Williams handled a shotgun that discharged and killed him. In 2004, he was acquitted of the most serious charges, but found guilty of trying to cover it up. He later pleaded guilty to aggravated assault and was sentenced to 5 years, serving about 27 months before getting out in April of 2012. But that wasn't the end. In April of 2009, he was found intoxicated and violent in a hotel, requiring a taser and hospitalization. A month later, he allegedly punched a guy in North Carolina, but those charges were dropped. Then in January of 2010, he crashed his Mercedes in Manhattan and got hit with a DWI. That earned him another year in jail, 8 months, of which he served at Rikers Island. Earlier accusations from the 90s included a bar fight and firing a gun into a parking lot, though no charges stuck. After prison, he wrote books reflecting on his actions and personal struggles. Jason Kidd. On January 18, 2001, he was arrested in Paradise Valley, Arizona, after hitting his then-wife, Jumana Kidd, during an argument. She ended up with a cut inside her mouth and visible swelling. Kidd admitted to striking her and pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor domestic abuse charge. He got a $200 fine and was ordered to attend 6 months of anger management counseling. He not only completed it, but kept attending sessions voluntarily. The couple eventually divorced in 2007, each accusing the other of cruelty and abuse. Then, in July of 2012, Kidd got arrested again, this time in Southampton, New York. After crashing his SUV into a telephone pole, police found him intoxicated and charged him with misdemeanor driving while intoxicated. A year later, he pleaded guilty and was put on interim probation. He also had to speak to high school students about the dangers of drinking and driving. If he completed that, the plea would drop to a violation. The NBA suspended him for 2 games at the start of the 2013 season, right when he had just taken over as head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. Kobe Bryant. In July of 2003, he was arrested in Eagle County, Colorado, after a 19-year-old hotel employee accused him of sexual assault. The incident happened at the Lodge and Spa at Cordillera, where Bryant was staying before knee surgery. On July 4th, a warrant was issued, and he turned himself in, posting a $25,000 bond. 2 weeks later, he was formally charged with felony sexual assault. Bryant admitted to having sex with the accuser, but insisted it was consensual. Medical reports showed bruising and lacerations, consistent with her claims. The criminal case didn't go to trial because the accuser chose not to testify. Prosecutors dismissed the charges in September of 2004. The following year, in March, Bryant settled a civil lawsuit filed by the accuser for an undisclosed amount. After the dismissal, Bryant issued a public apology, saying he now understood she didn't view the encounter the same way he did. The fallout hit his reputation hard. Sponsors like McDonald's and Nutella dropped him. While the case never led to a conviction, it became a defining controversy that followed him through his career and shaped how many viewed him on and off the court. Scottie Pippen. In January of 1994, he was arrested in Chicago after police found a loaded .380 handgun in his illegally parked Range Rover, even though he legally owned the weapon. Carrying it in public violated Illinois law at the time. He spent 45 minutes in jail, posted a $100 bond, and the charge was dropped due to an illegal search. A year later, in May of 1995, he was charged with simple battery after his fiancée accused him of pushing her during an argument. She wasn't injured, and he was released on another $100 bond. In April of 1999, while playing for Houston, he ran a red light around 1:30 in the morning and failed a field sobriety test. He refused the breathalyzer, was arrested for DWI, and later released. Charges were dropped for lack of evidence. In June of 2013, he got into an altercation outside a Malibu restaurant. A man claimed assault, but Pippen was never charged. Most recently, in March of 2024, a woman filed a $250 million harassment lawsuit involving Pippen and others. No charges have been filed. He was also defrauded by his financial advisor, who went to prison. J.R. Smith. On June 9, 2007, he ran a stop sign in Millstone Township, New Jersey, and crashed his SUV. He and his passenger Andre Bell were ejected, and Bell later died from his injuries. Smith wasn't indicted for manslaughter, but did plead guilty to reckless driving. He got 90 days in jail, with 60 suspended, and served 24 days before release. The NBA suspended him for 7 games to start the 2009 season. In May of 2012, he was arrested in Miami Beach due to a bench warrant after missing a court date for a scooter violation. He was released after posting bond. That same year, the NBA fined him $25,000 for posting a suggestive photo of model Tahiri Jose on Twitter. In November of 2015, a man accused him of choking and hitting him outside a nightclub. No charges were filed, but a civil lawsuit followed. On May 31st, 2020, during the George Floyd protests, Smith was caught on video beating a man who damaged his truck. He later admitted it was retaliation. Through it all, Smith kept playing professionally and even joined a college golf team. Javaris Crittenton. In December of 2009, while playing for the Wizards, he and Gilbert Arenas pulled guns on each other in the locker room during a dispute over gambling debts. The league suspended both for the rest of the season, and Crittenton never returned to the NBA. After failing to revive his career, he got involved with the Mansfield Gangster Crips. In August of 2011, he fired shots from a car in Atlanta, aiming at someone he believed robbed him. He missed and killed Julian Jones, a 22-year-old mother of 4. He was arrested later that month in California. In 2013, he was indicted on 12 charges, including murder and gang activity. In April of 2015, he accepted a plea deal for voluntary manslaughter and aggravated assault, receiving 23 years in prison. His cousin got 3 years for his role. While out on bond before sentencing, Crittenton was also indicted for conspiring to distribute cocaine and marijuana. After serving about 10 years, he was released in April of 2023 under strict probation. Since then, he's done public speaking and appeared in a Netflix documentary covering his fall from the NBA. Ron Artest. On November 19, 2004, he was at the center of the infamous malice at the Palace Brawl between the Pacers and Pistons. After a fan threw a drink, Artest charged into the stand, sparking one of the wildest scenes in NBA history. He was charged with misdemeanor assault and battery, pleaded no contest, and got 1 year of probation, 60 hours of community service, a small fine, and anger management. The NBA hit harder. He was suspended for the rest of the season, including 73 regular games and 13 playoff games, costing him about $5 million. Then in March of 2007, he was arrested at home in California after his wife reported being assaulted. He pleaded no contest to domestic violence and was sentenced to 20 days in jail, with 10 suspended. He served the time through a work release program and had to complete 100 hours of community service and counseling. The NBA suspended him for 7 games. He also had earlier suspensions for smashing a TV camera, fighting with a coach, and taking time off to promote a music album. In 2007, he gave up his dog due to neglect claims. Kevin Porter Jr. In November of 2020, he was arrested in Ohio after crashing his car. Police found a loaded gun in the vehicle, but a grand jury declined to indict him since both the car and the gun belonged to his mother. Misdemeanor charges for driving without a license were also dropped. Then in September of 2023, he was arrested in Manhattan after allegedly assaulting his girlfriend, former WNBA player Keisri Gondrezick. Prosecutors said he hit her several times and choked her, causing a deep cut and a fractured vertebra. He was charged with felony assault and strangulation. As part of a plea deal, he pleaded guilty to misdemeanor assault and harassment. The deal required him to complete a 26-week domestic violence program and follow a limited protection order. If completed, he could withdraw his assault plea. After the arrest, the Rockets banned him from team activities. He was traded to the Thunder and immediately waived. In 2024, he signed with Greek club PAOK Thessaloniki and played 6 games, posting impressive stats. By July, he signed with the Clippers, and in February of 2025, he was traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. Malik Beasley. On September 26, 2020, he confronted a family who had stopped near his home in Plymouth, Minnesota. The house had mistakenly been listed on a Parade of Homes tour, and Beasley responded by pointing a rifle at the occupants, which included a child. When police arrived, they smelled marijuana and got a search warrant. Inside, they found around 2 pounds of marijuana and several firearms, one of them reported stolen. Beasley was charged with felony threats of violence and 5th-degree drug possession. In December, he accepted a plea deal and pleaded guilty to the felony threat charge, with the drug charge dropped. He was sentenced in February of 2021 to 120 days in the Hennepin County Workhouse to be served after the season. His conditions included 3 years of probation, anger management classes, random drug tests, and a permanent firearms ban. He started serving his sentence in June and was released after 78 days for good behavior. The NBA suspended him for 12 games that season as a result of the incident. Beasley's legal issues added serious weight to a career that had already seen plenty of attention for his on-court performance. Oliver Miller. On April 17, 2011, during a barbecue in Arnold, Maryland, he got into a heated argument with his girlfriend's brother, Jason Worley. The confrontation turned violent when Miller hit Worley in the head several times with a handgun, causing injuries that required 11 staples. He was arrested and charged with first and second degree assault, reckless endangerment, use of a handgun in a violent crime, possession of a handgun, and disorderly conduct. On November 1st, he pleaded guilty to first degree assault and carrying a handgun. He was sentenced on February 3rd, 2012 to 5 years in prison, with all but 1 year suspended. After serving his sentence, he was placed on 5 years of probation. Before his legal troubles, Miller had a 9-season NBA career. Drafted 22nd overall by the Phoenix Suns in 1992, he played for several teams, including the Pistons, Raptors, Mavericks, Kings, and Timberwolves. He was part of the Suns' run to the 1993 NBA Finals and had a standout season with Toronto in 1996. Miller passed away from cancer on March 12, 2025, at the age of 54, closing a turbulent chapter after a promising NBA career. Taurean Prince. On May 19, 2022, he was pulled over in Arlington, Texas, for driving with expired registration tags. During the stop, Prince told officers he had 2 handguns in the car. As they were being retrieved, the officer noticed a vape pen suspected of containing THC oil, along with a canister of marijuana. That led to charges for unlawful carrying of a weapon, possession of marijuana under 2 ounces, and possession of a controlled substance. In Texas, having a firearm while committing another offense makes the weapons charge more serious. The investigation took time due to lab testing. Then, on August 25th, Prince was arrested at Miami International Airport on a fugitive warrant tied to the Texas charges. He was booked into Turner Guilford Night Correctional Center and later released on bond. In November, a grand jury in Texas declined to indict him on the controlled substance charge, and the weapons charge was dropped soon after. Prince made a public statement calling the incident unfortunate and maintained his innocence. The whole situation reflected just how messy local drug and firearm laws can get, especially for public figures caught in legal gray areas. Jack Molinas. In 1953, he was drafted 3rd overall by the Fort Wayne Pistons and quickly made an impact, averaging over 11 points and 7 rebounds per game. But his career was derailed in January of 1954 when he admitted to betting on games, including ones he played in. The NBA banned him for life. He tried to sue the league for $3 million, claiming antitrust violations, but the case was dismissed. After basketball, he got involved in a massive college point shaving scandal between 1957 and 1960. Molinas helped fix games involving 50 players from 27 different schools. Working alongside members of the Genovese crime family, he was convicted in 1963 and sentenced to up to 15 years, serving 5 before being paroled in 1968. After prison, he didn't exactly go quiet. He got involved in the pornography business and was arrested in 1973 for illegally shipping obscene materials across state lines. Then in August of 1975, he was shot and killed in his backyard in Los Angeles. His girlfriend and dog were also wounded. The murder was suspected to be mob-related, tying back to debts and criminal connections that followed him for decades. Sebastian Telfair. In April of 2007, he was pulled over in Yonkers, New York, for speeding. Police found he had a suspended license and discovered a loaded .45 caliber handgun under the seat. He pleaded guilty in 2008 to criminal possession of a weapon and received 3 years of probation. The NBA suspended him for 3 games. Then in June of 2017, Telfair was stopped again in Brooklyn, this time for driving without headlights and parking illegally. Officers smelled marijuana and saw a lit joint. A search uncovered 3 loaded handguns, a semi-automatic rifle, a ballistic vest, and several bags of marijuana. He was charged with criminal weapon possession and other offenses. In April 2019, he was convicted, and that August, he was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. However, in November of 2023, his conviction was overturned after a court ruled that previous incidents used in the trial may have biased the jury. Back in October 2021, he was also charged with healthcare fraud. He pleaded guilty in March 2023, got probation, and was ordered to forfeit over $350,000. Mookie Blaylock. On May 31st, 2013, he crossed the center line while driving in Clayton County, Georgia, and collided head-on with a van. Monica Murphy, a 43-year-old mother of 5, was killed, and her husband was seriously injured. At the time, Blaylock had been ordered by doctors not to drive due to seizures related to alcohol withdrawal. Despite that, he was behind the wheel. He was charged with vehicular homicide, driving with a suspended license, and failure to maintain his lane. In October of 2014, he took a plea deal, pleading guilty to vehicular homicide and serious injury by vehicle. He received a 15-year sentence, with 3 years to be served in prison and the rest on probation. He was also ordered to complete 1,500 hours of community service, attend Alcoholics Anonymous twice weekly, and never drive again during the sentence. Blaylock had a long history of alcohol abuse, with 7 DUI arrests, 6 of which came after his NBA career ended in 2002. During his playing days, he was a defensive standout, leading the league in steals twice and making an All-Star appearance in 1994 with the Atlanta Hawks. James Bouknight. On October 16, 2022, Charlotte police found him unconscious in a running car parked in a deck on East Brooklyn Village Avenue. The vehicle was still in drive. Officers spent nearly an hour trying to wake him using lights, sirens, and air horns. When he finally came to, Bouknight refused commands, appeared confused, and ended up hitting 2 police vehicles before being detained. His blood alcohol level was 0.14, well above the legal limit of 0.08 in North Carolina. He also had a Glock 23 on him, but wasn't charged with any firearm offense since he had a pending concealed carry permit and was within state open carry laws. Prior to that, he had several reckless driving charges between November of 2021 and October 10, 2022. In April 2024, Bouknight pleaded guilty to impaired driving and received 12 months of unsupervised probation. He was ordered to complete 24 hours of community service or provide proof of inpatient substance abuse treatment. His license was suspended for the probation period. After these incidents, the Hornets waived him in February of 2024, ending his stint with the team. P.J. Tucker. In May of 2014, he was arrested in Scottsdale, Arizona for driving under the influence. His blood alcohol content was recorded at 0.222%, nearly 3 times the legal limit in the state. Tucker later pleaded guilty to an extreme DUI charge, a more severe classification due to the high BAC level. As part of the legal outcome, he faced penalties under Arizona law and was also suspended by the NBA for the first 3 games of the 2014-15 season without pay. The league's disciplinary action reflected the seriousness of the offense, though Tucker complied fully with the legal process. Since that incident, he hasn't been publicly connected to any other legal trouble. His career continued without further disruption, and he's maintained a solid reputation. Tucker has played for several NBA teams, including the Suns, Raptors, Rockets, Bucks, and Heat. He played a major role in helping the Bucks win the 2021 NBA title with his signature defense and toughness. Before that, he spent time overseas in places like Germany and Israel. The DUI remains the only notable legal issue in a career otherwise marked by professionalism and steady leadership. Greg Oden. On August 7th, 2014, he was arrested in Lawrence, Indiana, after police responded to a domestic disturbance at his mother's house. Officers found his ex-girlfriend with visible injuries, including a swollen eye, lacerations on her face, and a broken nose. Blood was seen on the furniture and floor, and a flower pot had been knocked over. Oden admitted to hitting her during an argument and said things got out of control. Witnesses, including a relative, tried to restrain him. He was charged with felony battery, causing serious bodily injury, and 2 counts of misdemeanor domestic battery. The victim needed stitches and additional treatment for the nasal fracture. In February of 2015, Oden took a plea deal, pleading guilty to battery with moderate bodily injury. The remaining charges were dropped. He received 909 days of probation, was fined, and ordered to attend counseling. Following the incident, Oden addressed his struggles with alcohol and began turning his life around. He returned to Ohio State, completed his degree, and later joined Butler University's basketball staff in 2022. He married Sabrina in 2017, and they have a daughter named London. Matt Barnes. In September of 2010, he was arrested in Sacramento on suspicion of felony domestic violence after an altercation with his then-fiancée, Gloria Govan. Both had visible injuries, and he was also charged with obstructing a phone line. Govan later denied any abuse. In July 2012, he was arrested again in Manhattan Beach for driving with a suspended license and allegedly threatening a police officer. He posted a $26,000 bond. In October 2015, Barnes drove to his estranged wife's house and got into a physical fight with Derek Fisher, who was dating Govan. The NBA suspended Barnes for 2 games and fined him $35,000 for his comments afterward. In December 2016, he was involved in a nightclub incident in New York where he allegedly choked a woman and assaulted a man. He later pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct and completed 10 days of community service. Civil suits from that incident are still ongoing. In 2018, he secured a restraining order against Govan after a school custody dispute. In 2023, he was sued for spitting on David Patterson. By February 2024, he was removed as Kings analyst following an undisclosed incident. Jarrett Jack. On February 20th, 2011, he was pulled over in Snellville, Georgia, around 4 a.m. for driving 66 in a 45 zone and weaving between lanes. Officers administered a field sobriety test, which he failed. He was then taken to Gwinnett County Jail, where a breathalyzer measured his blood alcohol content at .079, technically under the state's legal limit of .08. However, considering the rate alcohol leaves the system, authorities believed he was likely above the limit at the time of the stop. Jack was charged with DUI, speeding, and failure to maintain lane. He spent about 14 hours in custody before being released and later issued a public apology. The New Orleans Hornets, his team at the time, acknowledged the situation but let the legal process play out without suspension. Then, on April 12, 2013, Jack was fined $25,000 by the NBA for verbally abusing a referee after a loss to the Lakers. The game had a lopsided free throw count that likely fueled his outburst. These 2 incidents were the most notable legal and disciplinary challenges during Jack's otherwise steady basketball career. Al Jefferson. In February of 2010, Jefferson was arrested in Minneapolis for driving while impaired. After a Timberwolves game, he pleaded guilty to a 4th-degree DWI and was sentenced to 2 years probation, 40 hours of community service, and a $300 fine. His jail sentence was stayed as long as he maintained a clean driving record. The Timberwolves suspended him for 2 games, and Jefferson publicly apologized. In December of 2011, a domestic incident involving Jefferson and his girlfriend occurred in Cottonwood Heights, Utah. His girlfriend, Shirley Lewis, was arrested for allegedly hitting and biting him during an argument. She pleaded guilty to misdemeanor assault and avoided further legal trouble after paying court fees. Jefferson chose not to publicly discuss the incident. In December of 2015, the NBA suspended Jefferson for 5 games without pay after he violated the league's anti-drug policy. The substance involved was not disclosed, following NBA regulations. Gilbert Arenas. Like Crittenden, Arenas became involved in a major legal incident in December of 2009. The situation took place at the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. Arenas and teammate Javaris Crittenden had a heated gambling dispute, which led Arenas to bring 4 unloaded firearms into the locker room and place them on Crittenden's chair with a note reading "Pick 1." Crittenden responded by drawing his own loaded firearm, leading to a tense standoff. The situation escalated, causing others to flee the locker room. The D.C. Metropolitan Police and U.S. Attorney's Office investigated the matter. Arenas was charged with carrying a pistol without a license, a violation of Washington, D.C.'s strict gun law. He pleaded guilty to the felony charge in January of 2010. Arenas received 2 years probation, 30 days, in a halfway house, 400 hours of community service, and a $5,000 fine. The NBA suspended him indefinitely and for the rest of the season. The incident severely impacted Arenas' career, overshadowing his on-court achievements. Zach Randolph. Zach Randolph, a former NBA forward known for his time with the Memphis Grizzlies and Sacramento Kings, faced legal trouble on August 9, 2017, when he was arrested in Los Angeles. The incident occurred at the Nickerson Gardens housing project, a neighborhood in South Los Angeles. The situation escalated after deputies arrived to break up a large crowd engaged in loud music and public marijuana use. The confrontation led to damage to 6 police vehicles and Randolph was one of several individuals detained. He was arrested for felony marijuana possession with intent to sell due to the large quantity of marijuana found in his possession. Randolph was booked into jail at 4:23 a.m. on August 10th with a $20,000 bail. In September, he pleaded no contest to a misdemeanor charge of resisting arrest, and the felony charge was dropped. He was sentenced to 150 hours of community service and ordered to stay away from drug dealers. The NBA did not impose additional penalties, and the Sacramento Kings issued a brief statement acknowledging the situation. Randolph, who had a strong community reputation, expressed that he felt wrongfully arrested. Michael Beasley, a former NBA forward, faced multiple legal issues during his career. In September of 2008, Beasley was involved in an incident during the NBA's rookie transition program. Police responded to a hotel room after a fire alarm went off at 2 a.m. and marijuana was detected. Although no marijuana was found, Beasley was fined $50,000 by the NBA. In August of 2009, Beasley checked into a rehabilitation center, reportedly for stress-related issues, following speculation about marijuana in his social media photos. In June of 2011, Beasley was pulled over for speeding in Minnetonka, Minnesota, where police discovered marijuana in his vehicle. Beasley was fined and ticketed after claiming the marijuana wasn't his. In August of 2013, Beasley was arrested in Scottsdale, Arizona, for marijuana possession during a traffic stop. In 2014, a sexual assault case was reported but later dropped. In 2019, Beasley was suspended for 5 games for violating the NBA's anti-drug policy. In February of 2025, he was arrested at Manhattan Regional Airport for marijuana possession and released on a $750 bond. Carmelo Anthony. Melo encountered several legal issues throughout his career. In October of 2004, Anthony was cited for marijuana possession after inspectors at Denver International Airport found marijuana in his backpack. The charges were dropped when his friend James Cunningham signed an affidavit taking responsibility for the marijuana. Later in 2004, Anthony appeared in a controversial Stop Snitching video, which warned that cooperating with the police would lead to violence. He later distanced himself from the video. In December of 2006, during a game between the New York Knicks and Denver Nuggets, Anthony was involved in a brawl, which resulted in a 15-game suspension. In April of 2008, Anthony was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence after weaving through lanes and failing to dim his headlights. He failed sobriety tests and was ticketed. The Denver Nuggets suspended him for 2 games, and he pleaded guilty to driving while ability impaired. The original charge was dropped, and he was sentenced to 1-year probation, 24 hours of community service, and $1,000 in fines. Jason Richardson, a former NBA player known for his dunks, faced multiple legal issues during his career. In April of 2003, Richardson was arrested after an altercation with his ex-girlfriend in Saginaw, Michigan. He was charged with misdemeanor domestic violence after pushing her into a wall and kicking her. The Golden State Warriors suspended him for 3 games without pay. In November of 2004, Richardson was convicted of felony child abuse after an incident involving his 6-year-old daughter. He was sentenced to 4 years of supervised probation. In December of 2010, Richardson was convicted of vehicular homicide due to intoxication after a fatal car accident, and he was sentenced to 8 years in prison. In 2005, Richardson faced multiple charges of reckless endangerment across several incidents in Tennessee. He was convicted in each case and sentenced to 6 days in jail per conviction. These repeated offenses led to ongoing legal troubles and affected his career. The accumulation of these charges raised serious concerns about his behavior, leaving a significant mark on his personal and professional life. Juan Wick, Jaime Jaquez Jr., picked up one of the most talked about nicknames in recent NBA history during his rookie season with the Miami Heat in 2023 to 2024. The nickname is a play on the fictional assassin John Wick, swapping John for Juan, the Spanish equivalent, as a nod to Jaquez's Mexican heritage. His father is Mexican-American, and Jaquez has represented Mexico in international basketball. Heat fans ran with it because of his composed demeanor, his ability to score in multiple ways, and his completely unfazed presence under pressure. That calm, emotionless style reminded people of the John Wick character. What made it spread even faster is that Jaquez actually resembles Keanu Reeves physically. Same dark hair, similar facial features, serious expression. The joke just worked on multiple levels. It caught fire across social media and was picked up by outlets like GQ and Team Publication. By the end of his rookie year, Juan Wick had become the nickname most people associated with him. It's creative and it's stuck, but it's also built entirely on a pun tied to his ethnicity, with zero connection to his actual basketball numbers or achievements. It's more internet meme than traditional nickname, which is exactly what makes it both hilarious and one of the more absurd labels any player has carried in recent memory. It became famous almost instantly, not because of what he did on the court statistically, but because the joke landed perfectly and the internet ran with it at full speed. Leaning Tower of Pizza. Charles Barkley walked into the Philadelphia in the 1984 to 1985 season, listed at 6 feet 6 inches and weighing close to 300 pounds. He was undersized for a power forward and got absolutely roasted for it right away. Moses Malone, his own teammate, took one look at him and said he looked like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, except he swapped pizza for pizza to highlight Barkley's weight and eating habits. That's how Leaning Tower of Pizza was born. It was openly insulting, comparing him to a famous Italian landmark and a food at the same time. Malone wasn't holding back. What's actually wild is that the nickname worked. The teasing motivated Barkley to lose more than 50 pounds early in his career. He later credited Malone for helping transform him into an elite player. Barkley went on to become one of the greatest power forwards ever, an 11-time All-Star, the 1992 to 1993 Most Valuable Player, and a Hall of Famer. He also collected other legendary nicknames along the way, including the Round Mound of Rebound, the Human Refrigerator, and Sir Charles. But Leaning Tower of Pizza remains one of the most memorable insults ever thrown at an NBA player because it was so specific, so visual, and came from a Hall of Fame teammate before Barkley had even played a single regular season game. It's a roast that somehow helped build one of the basketball's greatest careers, the Anomaly. Jason Tatum has gone by several nicknames throughout his career, but the Anomaly is the one that sparked the most debate. The nickname started circulating during the 2023 to 2024 and 2024 to 2025 seasons, as fans and media tried to describe what makes Tatum so difficult to guard. He stands 6 feet 8 inches and combines elite scoring, advanced footwork, perimeter shooting, defensive versatility, rebounding, and playmaking all at the same time. Supporters argued that very few players in NBA history have put all of those tools together at his size, which made Anomaly feel fitting. The nickname gained momentum after Tatum publicly said he liked it, which essentially ended the debate over what nickname he preferred. Earlier options like The Problem and Deuce's Dad never really stuck. But here's the issue with the Anomaly. It feels manufactured. The greatest nicknames in NBA history arrived organically and described something immediately obvious. Magic Johnson was called Magic because he did magical things from day one. Hakeem was the Dream because his footwork was otherworldly. The Anomaly instead sounds abstract and self-serious. It doesn't reference Tatum's appearance, his playing style, his background, or any single signature skill. It could honestly apply to dozens of star players. Across NBA history, that vagueness is the problem. It's a nickname that tries to say everything and ends up saying nothing specific, which is why so many fans considered it forced from the moment it started circulating. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton's nickname Halliburton is one of the most controversial in recent NBA history, and it's not hard to understand why. The nickname takes his last name, Halliburton, and replaces part of it with a phonetic variation that sounds like Taliban, the extremist militant group. The intent behind it, at least from the fans using it online, was to describe Halliburton terrorizing opposing defenses with his passing and clutch shot making. It didn't come from the Indiana Pacers organization or from NBA broadcasters. It started on social media, specifically on platforms like X and Instagram, and spread through Pacers fan communities and NBA meme accounts during Indiana's 2024 and 2025 playoff runs. Halliburton repeatedly hit game-winning and game-tying shots during those stretches and led one of the highest-paced offenses in the entire league. He also led the NBA in assists during the 2024 season. From a pure basketball standpoint, the nickname reflects how much chaos he causes opposing defenses with his deep three-point shooting, pick-and-roll reads, and low turnover passing. But the nickname's direct connection to a real-world extremist organization responsible for war and human rights abuses is the main reason it lands here. It's almost entirely shock value. The joke is just that his last name sounds similar to Taliban, and that's it. There's no deeper creativity behind it, no reference to anything about his game, Beyond the vague idea that he's dangerous, it spread fast, got acknowledged by major publications, but the controversy never really went away, and it's not hard to see why. Big science. Jack Armstrong, the longtime Toronto Raptors television analyst and Hall of Fame broadcaster, gave Jonas Valanciunas the nickname Big Science during Valanciunas' time with the Raptors from 2012 to 2019. Armstrong was famous for his catchphrase, "It's not rocket science," during broadcasts, because Valanciunas was a massive center standing 7 feet tall and weighing more than 260 pounds. Armstrong adapted that phrase and started calling him Big Science. That's really the entire origin. There's no deeper meaning. It has nothing to do with Valanciunas' intelligence, academic background, or any specific basketball skill. It's just a broadcaster pun built around his size and a popular saying. Valanciunas was selected 5th overall in the 2011 NBA draft and developed into one of the most productive traditional centers in the league. He consistently put up double-double, ranked among the best offensive rebounders in basketball, and was one of the most efficient post scorers of his era. His old-school style made him stand out even more as the league shifted toward stretch big men. But Big Science describes none of that. It's completely abstract. Someone hearing it for the first time without context would have no idea it referred to Valanciunas or what aspect of his game it was even supposed to represent. It sounds more like the name of a research lab than an NBA player. Outside of Raptors fans and people familiar with Armstrong's broadcasts, the nickname barely existed. That combination of total abstraction, zero basketball relevance, and purely regional recognition makes it one of the more bizarre nicknames ever attached to a legitimate NBA starter. The Big Handsome. Cody Zeller earned the nickname The Big Handsome during his college career at Indiana University Bloomington, where he played for the Indiana Hoosiers from 2011 to 2013. At 7 feet tall, with blonde hair and blue eyes, Zeller stood out visually compared to most players, and fans started calling him the Big Handsome because of his conventionally attractive appearance. The nickname followed him into the NBA after he was selected 4th overall in the 2013 NBA draft by the Charlotte Hornets, who were still called the Bobcats at the time. Broadcasters and fans carried it throughout his professional career. Zeller built a reputation as a fundamentally sound center. He was known for setting screens, rebounding, making smart decisions, and finishing around the basket. He wasn't an all-star, but he played more than a decade in the NBA as a reliable rotation big man. The issue with the nickname is obvious, though. It's built entirely around his physical appearance and has nothing to do with basketball. Most respected NBA nicknames reflect skill, dominance, or a defining on-court trait. The Big Handsome tells you he's tall and considered attractive, and that's it. It sounds more like a dating profile description than a sports nickname, and it completely lacks the toughness or on-court identity that great nicknames tend to carry. It also got applied occasionally to Nikola Jokic, who earned the much more recognizable Big Honey. The Big Handsome never got close to that level of recognition and stayed mostly tied to Zeller's specific image, which is probably the most politely awkward outcome a nickname like this could have. Benjamin Buckets. LeBron James has carried some of the most iconic nicknames in basketball history. King James, the Chosen One, the Akron Hammer, and then there's Benjamin Buckets, which stands alone as the strangest entry on that list. The nickname connects to The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, the 2008 film where the main character physically ages in reverse. Cleveland Cavaliers head coach Tyronn Lue made the comparison during training camp before the 2017 to 2018 season, when he said LeBron appeared to be getting younger, despite already having played 14 NBA seasons. Lue referred to him as Benjamin Button. At some point, Basketball Reference listed the nickname as Benjamin Buckets, swapping Button for Buckets, as a nod to basketball slang for scoring. The result is a nickname that sounds like the name of a fictional banker, not a 4-time most valuable player. It was never used regularly in broadcasts or interviews. It wasn't attached to a signature skill or a specific moment. Most fans only discovered it existed because it appeared on a database and people mocked it online. LeBron already had a full roster of legitimate nicknames that carried actual weight. Benjamin Buckets sounds clunky next to all of them. It's the definition of a forced word swap that makes more sense on paper than it ever did spoken out loud. The nickname became famous almost entirely because fans found it funny for the wrong reasons, which is a pretty unusual achievement for someone who's arguably the most decorated player in NBA history. The Dancing Bear. Draymond Green picked up the nickname the Dancing Bear during his college career at Michigan State, and it followed him into professional basketball long enough to be listed as one of his official nicknames. The phrase has historically been used to describe a large person who moves with surprising agility, and it captures something real about Green's game. At Michigan State, he was listed at 6 feet 6 inches, played power forward and center, carried more weight than most players at his height, and still handled the ball and passed like a guard. Head coach Tom Izzo and others frequently referenced his unconventional physique and versatile movement. Green is undersized for a front court player, heavier than most wings, and yet he can defend every position on the floor and operate as a primary playmaker for his team. The Dancing Bear technically describes that quality. The problem is that it does so by comparing him to a circus animal. It focuses on his body shape rather than the elite intelligence, defensive instincts, and playmaking ability that actually define his game. It sounds more like a joke than a nickname for a player who's won 4 NBA championships and is considered one of the most impactful defenders of his generation. Sports Illustrated specifically called it one of the goofiest official basketball reference nicknames. Fans rarely use it in everyday conversation, and it's almost never heard during broadcasts. For a future Hall of Famer, the Dancing Bear is a strange thing to have attached to your name, even if it accidentally tells a small piece of the story. Threezus. Kyle Korver was one of the greatest shooters in NBA history, and the nickname Threezus tried to put that on record in the most dramatic way possible. The name combines 3 for the three-point shot and Jesus, and was used to describe Korver's near-automatic shooting from deep. The statistical case behind it is real. He finished his career with 2,450 regular season three-pointers made. He shot 42.9% from 3 for his entire career. He led the NBA in three-point percentage 4 times. He was a member of the exclusive 50-40-90 club in the 2009 to 2010 season. During the 2014 to 2015 season with the Atlanta Hawks, he averaged 12.1 points, shot 49.2% from 3, made 221 threes, and hit a 3 in 127 consecutive games. That same season, Atlanta won 60 games and had all 5 starters named Eastern Conference Players of the Month for January 2015. The nickname made sense in context. The problem is that it uses religious wordplay, sounds exaggerated, and depends entirely on one skill. It's also more pun than traditional nickname. Classic NBA nicknames carry weight without requiring explanation. Threezus is clever, but it also sounds like something a fan account came up with during a hot streak rather than a nickname that grows naturally out of someone's career. The humor and the absurdity are both intentional, but that's also exactly what lands it in the conversation about the worst nicknames the sport has produced. The Michael Jordan of Delaware. Dante DiVincenzo. Nickname is exactly as absurd as it sounds. He was born on January 31st, 1997 in Newark, Delaware, one of the smallest states in the country, and a place that has produced very few notable NBA players. Because of that, fans jokingly crowned him as Delaware's basketball king by using the most extreme comparison possible. The nickname exploded nationally during the 2018 NCAA tournament when Devo came off the bench for Villanova in the national championship game against Michigan. He scored 31 points, made 5 three-pointers, grabbed 5 rebounds, and recorded 3 assists in a 79-62 victory. His 31 points were the most ever by a bench player in a national championship game. He was named the NCAA Final Four Most Outstanding Player. After that performance, the Michael Jordan of Delaware nickname got revived and stuck to him permanently. The comparison is intentionally ridiculous. Jordan won 6 NBA championships, 6 Finals Most Valuable Player awards, 5 regular season Most Valuable Player awards, and 10 scoring titles. Devo is a highly valuable role player, not remotely in that conversation by any definition. The nickname is also just too long. Great nicknames are short and immediately descriptive. The Michael Jordan of Delaware is a full sentence that works entirely as a meme. Its humor lives in the absurd gap between the most prestigious comparison in basketball and a player whose real reputation is that of a strong complementary piece. Memorable, yes, one of the strangest nicknames ever attached to a professional player. Absolutely. World B flat. Kyrie Irving is one of the most skilled guards in NBA history. He's also the person whose name became permanently attached to one of the most satirical nicknames the sport has ever seen. In February 2017, Irving said on the podcast Road Trippin' that he believed the earth was flat. The comments generated international attention and became one of the most discussed off-court stories of that entire NBA season. Irving later said he was trying to encourage people to question accepted information, but the damage to his public image was already done. Fans took the name World B. Free, the iconic player who legally changed his name from Lloyd Bernard Free in 1981 and swapped Free for Flat to create World B. Flat. It became extremely popular online and got referenced whenever Irving's unconventional beliefs came up in conversation. From a wordplay standpoint, it's sharp. It references an existing basketball figure and ties directly to one of the most famous controversies of Irving's career. The problem is that it has nothing to do with his actual basketball ability. Irving finished his career as one of the most technically gifted ball handlers and scorers the league has ever seen. He's capable of shots most players can't even attempt, and yet one of his most famous nicknames is built entirely around a scientific misconception. That disconnect between extraordinary talent and the subject of the nickname is what makes it so strange. It's not a nickname about what he does on the floor. It's a permanent reminder of one of the most widely criticized things he ever said publicly, and it followed him for the rest of his career. Big Musty. Wilt Chamberlain has one of the most statistically dominant careers in the history of professional sports. He scored 100 points in a single game on March 2nd, 1962. He averaged 50.4 points per game during the 1961 to 1962 season. He averaged 25.7 rebounds per game for his entire career. He won 4 Most Valuable Player awards, 2 NBA championships, 7 scoring titles, 11 rebounding titles, and even led the league in assists in 1968. His legitimate nicknames, Wilt the Stilt and the Big Dipper, are iconic. Wilt the Stilt referenced his 7'1" frame and long legs. The Big Dipper came from his habit of ducking through doorways. Both of those names say something real about who he was. Big Musty says none of that. The nickname is an internet-era creation that emerged decades after his playing career ended. The slang term musty gets used online to describe someone perceived as old, dusty, or outdated. Because Chamberlain played in the 1950s, 60s, and early 70s, younger fans started using Big Musty as a joking way to portray him as a relic of a primitive basketball era. It's intentionally dismissive. It trivializes one of the most extraordinary athletic careers ever recorded and reduces a generational talent to a meme about age and appearance. Compared to Wilt the Stilt and the Big Dipper, it has no connection to his playing style, his athleticism, or his accomplishments. It's one of the most disrespectful nicknames ever attached to a legitimate all-time great, and that alone earns it a permanent spot on this list. Joe Jackson. Derek Coleman was the first overall pick in the 1990 NBA draft by the New Jersey Nets. He won the 1990 to 1991 Rookie of the Year award. He made 2 All-Star teams. He was named to the All-NBA third team in 1992 to 1993. He was one of the most talented power forwards of the entire decade. None of that is what his nickname Joe Jackson references. The nickname compares him to Joe Jackson, the father and manager of the Jackson family, which included Michael Jackson, Jermaine Jackson, and Janet Jackson. The origin came from Coleman's personal life. During his playing career, he became known among teammates and media for having numerous children, and the nickname drew a comparison to Joe Jackson, who famously fathered and managed 9 children who became internationally known entertainers. That's the entire connection. There's nothing about scoring, rebounding, passing, or anything that happened on a basketball court. The nickname had no relationship to Coleman's playing style or personality during games. It was based on a personal family detail, was rarely spoken publicly, and required significant background knowledge to even understand. Most fans hearing Joe Jackson in an NBA context would think of the baseball player from the early 1900s before making any connection to Coleman. It never became part of mainstream basketball conversation, never explained anything about his game, and offered no immediate meaning to anyone watching. For a player with a legitimate resume, it's one of the most obscure and confusing nicknames in the history of the sport. Sweet Melon, Carmelo Anthony, finished his career with 28,289 regular season points. He made 10 All-Star teams. He earned 6 All-NBA selections. He won the 2012 to 2013 scoring title. He averaged 22.5 points per game for his career. He won a national championship at Syracuse in 2003. And somehow, One of the nicknames attached to his name is Sweet Melon. The wordplay starts with Carmelo, which gets shortened to Mellow. From there, someone swapped Mellow for Melon and turned his name into a fruit. The sweet portion supposedly refers to his reputation as one of the smoothest scorers in NBA history. The result is a nickname that converts one of the most prolific scorers of his generation into a produce section item. Most people who followed Anthony's career knew him as Mellow, Hoodie Mellow, or Olympic Mellow. Sweet Melon wasn't circulating in television broadcasts or fan conversations. It became known mostly because it showed up on nickname databases rather than through any organic moment in his career. It's not that the wordplay is technically wrong, it's that it adds nothing. Mellow already works perfectly. It's short, recognizable, and widely used. Sweet Melon just takes that name and makes it weird without adding any new meaning, identity, or description. For a player with Anthony's resume, ending up with a nickname that sounds like a smoothie flavor is a genuinely strange outcome, and that's exactly what earns it a spot on this list. Armadillo Cowboy. Joe Johnson has an actual nickname that fits him perfectly. ESO Joe became famous because Johnson was one of the best isolation scorers of his entire era. He made 7 All-Star teams, scored more than 20,000 career points, hit multiple game-winning shots, and was a key player for the Phoenix Suns, Atlanta Hawks, Brooklyn Nets, and Utah Jazz throughout his career. ESO Joe tells you exactly what he does. Armadillo Cowboy tells you absolutely nothing. That nickname came from Johnson's background. He was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, and attended the University of Arkansas. Armadillos are common animals in the southern United States, and cowboy gets used as a broad symbol of rural southern culture. Someone combined those two things and called it a basketball nickname, which is a stretch by any reasonable standard. The nickname appeared on Basketball Reference, but was almost never used by broadcasters or fans. It doesn't describe Johnson's playing style, his scoring ability, his demeanor, or any on-court characteristic. It sounds like the title of a country music album that got accidentally attached to a professional athlete. Even within the category of geography-based nicknames, it doesn't work because there's no natural connection between armadillos and basketball. ESO Joe remained his defining nickname throughout his career because it actually meant something. Armadillo Cowboy is just genuinely difficult to understand, overly long and completely overshadowed by a nickname that does everything a good sports nickname is supposed to do. Bite Bite. Mike Conley is known across the NBA for his professionalism, his leadership, and his reputation as one of the most respected veterans in the league. He's been praised for elite pick-and-roll decision-making, low turnover rates, strong perimeter defense, and efficient three-point shooting. His more traditional nicknames include Captain Clutch and Mountain Mike. And then there's Bite Bite, which came from his son, Miles. Conley was traded to the Utah Jazz in July 2019. As he became a fan favorite in Utah, the story of his nickname spread publicly. His young son, who was still learning to speak, tried to say bye-bye whenever Conley left for road trips or games. Because of his age, Miles pronounced it as Bite Bite. The phrase became a family term, Conley shared it publicly, and Jazz fans embraced it completely. It showed up on social media, on fan merchandise, and on signs at games. Conley acknowledged it and said he appreciated the personal connection behind it. It's a genuinely wholesome origin story, and that's not in dispute. The problem is that Bite Bite sounds nothing like the nickname of an NBA All-Star. It sounds like something a toddler calls a house pet. Someone hearing it without any context would have no reason to connect it to a professional basketball player with more than 15 years of NBA experience. It provides zero indication of Conley's skill, toughness, leadership, or role on any team he's played for. That contrast between the childlike sound of the nickname and the actual respect Conley commands across the league is what makes it one of the most uniquely strange monikers in basketball history. Mini LeBron. Eric Bledsoe was selected 18th overall in the 2010 NBA draft by the Oklahoma City Thunder and was immediately traded to the Los Angeles Clippers. Early in his career, standing approximately 6 feet 1 inch tall and weighing around 200 pounds, Bledsoe had an exceptionally muscular build, broad shoulders, and explosive athleticism. His body type and facial features resembled a smaller version of LeBron James, which is how Mini LeBron started circulating among fans and analysts. The comparison picked up traction while Bledsoe was playing behind Chris Paul during the Clippers' Lob City era. His style of play added fuel to the comparison. He drove to the rim powerfully, had elite end-to-end speed, defended multiple positions, and rebounded well for a guard. but the nickname created a nearly impossible standard. LeBron James has multiple championships, multiple Most Valuable Player awards, and is one of the most accomplished players in basketball history. Bledsoe developed into a legitimate NBA player in his own right. He earned all defensive team honors and averaged more than 20 points per game during his prime seasons. By any normal standard, that's an excellent career. But mini LeBron isn't a normal standard. It defines a player entirely in relation to someone else and automatically sets an expectation that almost no one in the history of the sport could realistically meet. As Bledsoe established his own identity, the nickname faded, but it remains one of the clearest examples of how a well-intentioned comparison can follow a player in the wrong direction before he's even had a chance to build a legacy of his own. The human victory cigar. Darko Milicic was selected second overall in the 2003 NBA draft by the Detroit Pistons. He was picked ahead of Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh, and Wade in a draft that's now widely considered one of the strongest in NBA history. Detroit was a championship contender at the time, led by Chauncey Billups, Richard Hamilton, Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, and Ben Wallace. Head coach Larry Brown rarely trusted rookies in that environment, which meant Milicic barely played. During the 2003 to 2004 season, he averaged just 4.7 minutes per game. He entered games almost exclusively in the final minutes of comfortable wins, and that pattern gave fans and media the material they needed. The term victory cigar refers to a celebratory cigar traditionally smoked by coaches after a blowout. In basketball, it evolved into slang for a reserve player who enters only when the outcome is already decided. Milicic fit that description so consistently that the human victory cigar became his defining nickname. The cruelty of it is tied directly to his draft position. Second overall picks are supposed to become franchise cornerstones. Instead, he was symbolic. End of bench insurance on a team that didn't need him. He did win an NBA championship in 2004, making him one of the youngest players ever to earn a title, but he played just 14 total playoff minutes during that entire championship run. The nickname is openly sarcastic and highlights one of the most jarring gaps between expectation and reality in draft history. It remains one of the most cutting nicknames the sport has ever produced. Grocery list. O.J. Mayo's full legal name is Ovington J. Anthony Mayo. His initials were O.J., and his last name was Mayo. When spoken out loud, that combination sounds less like the name of a professional basketball player and more like two items someone writes down before heading to the supermarket. O.J. stands for orange juice, and Mayo is mayonnaise. The nickname grocery list emerged from that accidental food reference and became one of the most unintentionally insulting monikers ever attached to a high-profile prospect. Mayo was a nationally ranked prodigy before reaching the NBA. He starred at the University of Southern California, was named Pac-10 Freshman of the Year, and was selected third overall in the 2008 NBA Draft. During his NBA career, he averaged 13.8 points per game and played for the Memphis Grizzlies, Dallas Mavericks, and Milwaukee Bucks. The nickname had nothing to do with any of that. It was instantly understandable, had no connection to basketball whatsoever, and turned his actual name into a running joke that never fully went away. It became one of his best-known unofficial nicknames, not because of anything he did on the court, but because his name accidentally sounds like a grocery run. For a player drafted third overall with legitimate star potential, being remembered in part because your name sounds like condiments and breakfast drinks is a uniquely rough outcome. It's also one of those nicknames that works immediately on first hearing, which is somehow both the best and worst thing about it. Don't Google. Evan Fournier played for the Denver Nuggets, Orlando Magic, Boston Celtics, New York Knicks, and Detroit Pistons during his NBA career. He scored efficiently from the outside, was a reliable rotation piece, and built a solid professional resume. None of that is what his nickname references. Don't Google became his most famous label because of Fournier gangrene, a rare and serious bacterial infection that shares his surname. The condition is named after 19th century French physician Jean-Alfred Fournier, who described the disease. Because the two share the same last name, searching Fournier online often produced graphic medical results instead of basketball highlights. Fans started warning each other not to search his name, and the phrase, "Don't Google Evan Fournier," spread widely enough that Fournier himself acknowledged it on social media, posting that he had personally experienced the search result. The nickname has no basketball meaning. It references a medical condition. It exists entirely as an internet warning. It became famous because of what shows up in a search engine rather than anything that happened during a game. It's also a nickname Fournier couldn't exactly distance himself from since it's attached to his actual last name. The fact that a legitimate NBA player's most memorable cultural footprint involves warning people not to search his surname is one of the stranger outcomes any professional athlete has had to navigate. For what it's worth, Fournier handled it publicly with a sense of humor, but it remains one of the most unusual reasons any player has ever ended up with a nickname in the first place. Big Government. Reggie Jackson's nickname, Big Government, is creative, politically charged, and makes almost no sense as a traditional sports moniker. Clippers teammate Nicholas Batum is widely credited with popularizing it. The explanation Batum gave was that Jackson always bailed the team out with timely shots, similar to how Big Government, in political terminology, describes a government that arrives to provide assistance during emergencies. The basketball logic is actually there when you break it down. The problem is that it requires a political science explanation before anyone understands it. During the 2021 NBA playoffs, Jackson became one of the most important players on the Clippers roster after Kawhi Leonard missed the end of the postseason. Jackson averaged 17.8 points per game in the playoffs that year and scored at least 20 points in multiple games. The Clippers reached the Western Conference Finals for the first time in franchise history. His performances were legitimate, and the nickname grew out of a real moment. But Big Government still sounds nothing like a sports nickname. It's oddly formal, bureaucratic, and requires full context to land. Classic nicknames describe something immediately. Big Government sounds like a political science lecture that wandered into a basketball conversation. Fans embraced it because it was clever and backed by actual clutch performances. But when placed next to traditional NBA nicknames built on skill, dominance, or personality, it stands out as one of the most unusual phrases ever used to describe a professional basketball player. That combination of genuine creativity and total weirdness is exactly why it belongs on this list. Joey Crawford, Tim Duncan incident. The whole thing started on April 15, 2007, during a game in Dallas. Tim Duncan was on the bench, not even playing, when referee Joey Crawford tossed him after handing out 2 technical fouls. The reason? Duncan was laughing, not loudly protesting, not jumping up and down, just laughing, with his head in a towel. Crawford said Duncan was mocking the refs and that the laughing was part of constant complaining. Duncan, on the other hand, said Crawford came up and actually asked him, "Do you want to fight?" during the text. That part right there set the whole thing on fire. After the dust settled, the league didn't waste any time. Commissioner David Stern stepped in and suspended Crawford indefinitely. He didn't just miss the rest of the regular season and playoffs, he also snapped a streak of 21 straight NBA Finals appearances. On top of that, Crawford got slapped with a $100,000 fine and was told to go through counseling and meet with a sports psychologist. Duncan got hit too, though not nearly as hard. He was fined $25,000 for verbal abuse. That reportedly came from the expletive he tossed Crawford's way while heading to the locker room. Crawford did return later that year after completing everything the league asked. He met with Stern again in July and was reinstated in September. Years later, Crawford called the incident one of the biggest regrets of his career. He even said it changed his life and led him to continue therapy long after the league's mandate ended. And in a strange twist, despite the chaos, San Antonio didn't fall apart. Just a few weeks later, they went on to win the 2007 NBA championship. Mike Mathis, tax evasion case. It all started back in 1994 when the IRS launched Operation Slam Dunk, targeting NBA refs who downgraded first-class tickets to coach, pocketed the leftover money, and never reported it. Mike Mathis was part of that group. Over 50 referees were under the microscope, and some were raking in tens of thousands of dollars this way. By February 19, 1997, things got real for Mathis. A grand jury hit him with 5 counts of tax fraud for underreporting $69,000 of income between 1989 and 1992. The scheme? He'd take the NBA-issued first-class ticket, swap it for coach, keep the extra cash, and sometimes use miles to still fly first class. That's some pretty wild gymnastics for a trip to a game. At first, Mathis denied it was intentional fraud. His lawyer argued tax rules weren't clear, and he genuinely misunderstood how the money should have been handled. But a year later, in February of 1998, Mathis changed course and pled guilty to 1 count of filing a false tax return. The rest of the charges got dropped. After pleading guilty, he resigned from the NBA. His sentence, 120 days of home confinement, 3 years of probation, 200 hours of community service, and a $2,000 fine. It wasn't nothing, but it could have been worse. Then, in January of 1999, Commissioner David Stern reinstated him. Mathis returned for just under 3 more seasons and wrapped up his career on December 16, 2001. He got a standing ovation that night in Seattle, closing the book on a wild chapter in NBA referee history with a little unexpected applause. Tim Donaghy betting scandal. This scandal broke in July of 2007 when the FBI revealed it was investigating an NBA ref for betting on games. That ref turned out to be Tim Donaghy, who had been placing bets going all the way back to the 2003 season and kept at it through 2007. He wasn't just betting, he was giving gamblers inside info, including for games he officiated. Donaghy quit his job on July 9, 2007, once the heat came in. Then, on August 15th, he pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud and conspiracy to transmit wagering info across state lines. He'd been giving coded messages to gamblers and getting paid based on how accurate his tips were. The payoff started at $2,000 per correct pick and eventually climbed to $5,000. Depending on who you ask, he made anywhere from $30,000 to $300,000. He admitted to giving inside info for at least 2 games during the 2007 season. For that, he was sentenced in July of 2008 to 15 months in federal prison and 3 years of supervised release. He served 11 months in a low-security Florida facility, with the rest in a halfway house. There was also a fine of $500,000, plus $30,000 in restitution. The NBA demanded even more, over $1,400,000 for lost salary and internal investigation costs. The league overhauled its defense around referee conduct. Gambling policies were tightened, game assignments got more secure, and refs went through background checks and training. Even though Donaghy later made wild accusations about rigged playoff games, federal investigators found nothing credible. Most of his claims were dismissed, but the damage to the league's rep stuck. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Dennis Rodman headbutts referee. On March 16, 1996, during a Bulls matchup against the Nets in New Jersey, Dennis Rodman got tossed in the first quarter after picking up 2 technical fouls, but instead of heading to the locker room like a regular human being, he chose a different route. Rodman walked up to referee Ted Bernhardt and delivered a clear headbutt. Then, as if that wasn't enough, he flipped over a water cooler, ripped off his jersey, and stormed off the court like the arena was his personal stage. The NBA wasted 0 time. They suspended him for 6 games without pay and fined him $20,000. According to NBA Vice President Rod Thorne, the punishment wasn't just for the headbutt itself, but for the entire meltdown. That included every dramatic step between the techs and the tunnel. Media coverage didn't go easy on him either. One outlet described him as looking more like the third stooge than a professional athlete. The whole scene was treated as both disturbing and bizarre, even by Rodman's standard. This was no isolated slip-up. The moment added to his growing list of on-court eruptions that earned him a reputation as one of the league's most unpredictable personalities. Basketball historians still mention this as one of the peak examples of Rodman's emotional volatility. He already had a reputation for being wild, but this sealed it. You don't headbutt a ref and walk away quietly. It became one of those moments that stuck with fans and commentators alike. And despite the circus-like energy, it had real consequences. The Bulls had to keep it together without him for 6 straight games, and the incident kept Rodman's name in headlines for all the wrong reasons. Just another infamous chapter in his chaotic NBA timeline. Jake O'Donnell, Clyde Drexler incident. On May 9, 1995, in Game 1 of the Western Conference semifinals between Houston and Phoenix, things got tense before the opening tip. At the captain's meeting, referee Jake O'Donnell refused to shake Clyde Drexler's hand. He later claimed he hadn't done so since the 1993 season. Then came the first quarter. After Drexler picked up a questionable foul and voiced his frustration, O'Donnell hit him with 2 quick technicals and tossed him out of the game. Drexler was furious and had to be held back by teammates and coaches as he charged toward O'Donnell. Houston was not quiet about it. They filed a formal complaint and even sent video of the pre-game snub. Elise Lanier, wife of Houston's mayor, personally reached out to Commissioner David Stern. While the league didn't announce any formal punishment, they stopped assigning O'Donnell to playoff games for the rest of the postseason. That meant he missed the finals for the first time in 23 straight seasons. He was still paid, but he never officiated another playoff game again. The usual $1,000 fine that players receive for being ejected, the league rescinded it for Drexler. That move raised even more eyebrows. It looked like the NBA was quietly admitting something was off. O'Donnell officially retired in December of that year. He insisted he wasn't suspended and that it was his choice to walk away. Still, he admitted to being confused about why he wasn't called back, even though they paid him anyway. He denied having any personal beef with Drexler and said he just didn't take anything from anybody. That ejection ended a career with 2,134 regular season games, 279 playoff games, and 39 NBA Finals appearances. 1951 college basketball point shaving scandal. While most attention goes to the players, this one also dragged an NBA referee straight into the mess. Saul Levy, an active league ref, was caught arranging outcomes in 6 NBA games back in 1950. That included matchups involving teams like the Knicks and Celtics. He didn't just get swept up by accident. He was a key figure in the betting network. His involvement led to changes in the Wilson-Moritz Act, so referees could be explicitly prosecuted for this kind of scheme. The broader scandal hit between 1947 and 1951, with 35 college players fixing at least 86 games. Schools included City College of New York, Long Island University, New York University, Manhattan College, Toledo, Bradley, and Kentucky. But Sol Levy's role proved that the corruption wasn't limited to college kids. It reached the pro level, too. Once the Manhattan district attorney had wiretaps and confessions, the house of cards fell fast. Junius Kellogg from Manhattan College helped set the trap after reporting a bribe offer. While most of the players involved were banned and slapped with suspended sentences, Levy's case had a bigger effect. It showed refs were not immune, and the law had to catch up. The fallout for Sol Levy wasn't just legal, it wrecked credibility across officiating. The NBA didn't release a lengthy public statement, but after that, Levy was gone. His downfall helped push the league toward stricter oversight and legal protections to prevent officials from becoming part of the betting circle again. This whole thing remains the largest fixing scandal in college hoops, but Sol Levy's part proved that even those in stripes could be part of the setup. He left behind a warning shot that the defense around officiating needed to be way tighter. Scott Foster, Chris Paul feud. This has become one of the NBA's most high-profile referee-player clashes. Chris Paul has made it clear he believes it's personal. He's even said the tension stems from an unresolved incident involving his son, and he claims the leagues tried to mediate before, holding meetings with Doc Rivers, his father, and referee leadership. Then came November 22nd, 2023. Paul got tossed in the second quarter of a Warriors versus. Suns game after 2, quick text from Foster. Foster called the first for unsportsmanlike conduct and the second for continuing to complain. That was Paul's 7th career ejection, but his first from Foster. Paul said, "It's personal." Multiple people echoed that the ejection felt overboard. Steve Kerr said the first technical made sense, but the second crossed the line. Steph Curry called it unnecessary escalation. Chris Mullin said Foster let his personal feelings interfere. Then there's the playoff record. Teams led by Paul have gone 3-17 in postseason games with Foster officiating, losing by over 11 points per game. Paul finally got one win under Foster in April 2023 when the Suns beat the Clippers. Foster's got a reputation. Players call him the extender because he often shows up in games where the trailing team suddenly stays alive. He's also known as Agent 48, and not in a flattering way. He's been voted worst ref in multiple player surveys. Despite criticism, the league keeps putting him in high-pressure spots. Foster's worked over 220 playoff games and 16 straight NBA finals. He's clearly trusted by the league. But things got even messier when it came out that Tim Donaghy made over 130 phone calls to Foster during the time he was under investigation. An NBA probe cleared Foster of wrongdoing, but the phone records still raised questions. Dick Bavetta game management allegations. Former NBA referee Tim Donaghy claimed Bavetta had a reputation for keeping games close, not necessarily fixing outcomes, but supposedly trying to avoid blowouts. Donaghy said Bavetta would tell his crew to give marginal calls to one team when the score got lopsided. He said it was about not embarrassing teams, not about picking winners. Donaghy used this logic to bet on large underdogs in Bavetta-officiated games, believing they'd cover the spread. But data doesn't support it. A review from BYU economist Joe Price showed betting on underdogs in games refereed by Bavetta actually led to losing returns. Teams favored by 7 or more points covered the spread more than underdogs did. In fact, the supposed advantage for underdogs didn't hold up. One study covering 69 games with 10-point spreads found underdogs only covered 36.2% of the time. A quote circulated from Bavetta himself, allegedly saying, "Calls tend to go to the team that's down 15 or 20 points." But it came from a fan post on Game FAQs and wasn't backed by a public statement or verified source. During the Donaghy investigation, federal agents asked other referees about Bavita. Hugh Hollins confirmed that questions about Bavita's conduct came up. Investigators wanted to know if Bavita helped teams win or held back on certain calls. Hollins said he never saw anything like that. David Stern publicly stated he had no concerns about Bavita's integrity during the scandal. Despite Donaghy's accusations, no proof ever came forward that Bavita manipulated games. No charges, no suspensions, just allegations that don't line up with the numbers. Bavita officiated 2,635 regular season games, 270 playoff games, and 27 finals games. He retired without formal discipline. Game 1, 2012 Knicks vs. Heat officiating controversy. In the first half alone, Miami attempted 28 free throws, while New York had only 5. That 23 shot gap before halftime stood out immediately. By the end of the game, the final count was 33 free throws for the Heat and just 11 for the Knicks. On top of that, New York was hit with 5 offensive fouls in the first half, a staggering number in any playoff setting. The whistles didn't stop there. Tyson Chandler was called for 2 illegal screens, one of which was upgraded to a flagrant foul, confusing even the broadcast crew. Then came a technical foul on Carmelo Anthony after he bounced the ball a little too firmly toward a ref. That was followed by a technical on coach Mike Woodson for reacting. In the third quarter, another offensive foul on Anthony led Jeff Van Gundy to say, "You couldn't knock LeBron James over with that much force if you tried." No calls became just as controversial. Anthony was knocked down on a drive without a whistle. And during a timeout, the officials took points off the board after a Jared Jeffries basket, a move so strange it left announcers stunned. The combination of free throw imbalance, repeated technicals, and highly questionable foul decisions led to widespread criticism. The Knicks were visibly frustrated, and so were fans and analysts. The entire flow of the game felt tilted, and the stat sheet backed it up. Whether it qualifies as the worst officiated game in league history is up for debate, but few playoff games have drawn that level of scrutiny. That first half free throw gap, the bizarre technicals, and the mid-timeout score change all contributed to what many still consider a lopsided and baffling officiating performance. Bennett Salvatore tax case. In July of 2000, longtime NBA referee Bennett Salvatore pleaded guilty in federal court to filing a false tax return for the 1993 tax year. The charge came from his failure to report income related to airline ticket downgrades, part of a broader issue among NBA officials at the time. Back then, the league provided referees with first-class tickets. Some, like Salvatore, would exchange them for coach seats, pocket the difference, and not report it as taxable income. This became a pattern across multiple seasons and drew federal attention, eventually triggering IRS investigations under what was later called Operation Slam Dunk. Salvatore's case was one of the more prominent ones. His sentence was fairly light: 1 year of probation, 150 hours of community service, and a $500 fine. No prison time, but it added his name to the list of officials caught up in the travel expense scandal. Though his case focused on a single tax year, it reflected a widespread practice that saw dozens of officials investigated. The IRS made clear it wasn't just about poor accounting, it was tax fraud. The NBA never formally suspended Salvatore, and he continued officiating after the plea, but the conviction stuck. This situation fits into a broader trend during that period, with refs misreporting income from non-cash perks like travel savings. It wasn't glamorous, but it was illegal. Salvatore's guilty plea put another stamp on a scandal that touched nearly every level of the league's officiating crew and set off policy changes inside and outside the NBA. Even though his penalty was relatively minor, the public stain didn't go away. His case is still cited anytime the topic of referee credibility or league integrity comes up in conversation. Eddie Rush, Carla Knafel claim. In 2002, singer Carla Knafel made a legal claim stating she met Michael Jordan after being introduced by NBA referee Eddie Rush. According to her version, Rush approached her at an Indianapolis hotel where she was performing, complimented her singing, and then called Jordan at his hotel room to introduce the two over the phone. That claim surfaced as part of Knafel's countersuit in an ongoing legal battle with Jordan, where she alleged he offered her $5 million to remain silent about their relationship. Jordan denied any such agreement, and the court later ruled the alleged confidentiality deal couldn't be enforced. The NBA reportedly looked into the Rush claim in general terms, but never took disciplinary action. The league reiterated its stance that referees shouldn't fraternize with players, but stopped short of confirming anything Knafel alleged. No official finding ever substantiated her version of events involving Rush. As for Rush, there's no public record of comments or statements addressing the accusation. His career continued without interruption, and no punishment was ever linked to the claim. To this day, the story remains unconfirmed and unverified, one part of a broader legal mess that played out in the media but never gained traction in court. Jeff Van Gundy, Yao Ming referee controversy. During the 2005 NBA playoffs, Rockets coach Jeff Van Gundy publicly claimed referees were targeting Yao Ming with foul calls. He said an inactive league official told him that Yao was being watched more closely because of complaints made by Mavericks owner Mark Cuban. Van Gundy said they were looking at Yao harder because of Mark's complaint. The NBA responded quickly. Commissioner David Stern hit Van Gundy with a $100,000 fine, the largest ever given to a coach at that time. The league also made clear it considered the accusation serious and warned against undermining officiating integrity. Van Gundy later walked back the specifics. He clarified that the source wasn't a working referee, but a league official. He also apologized and admitted he had been vague to protect that individual's identity. After the apology, the league considered the matter closed and didn't escalate discipline further. The National Basketball Referees Association didn't let it slide. They criticized Van Gundy's comments and demanded his firing, saying the accusation damaged the credibility of all officials. They said the remarks were reckless and undermined confidence in officiating across the league. Later, former referee Tim Donaghy added fuel to the fire. He claimed a supervisor did tell Van Gundy that Yao was being targeted more closely, backing the core of Van Gundy's allegation. But Donaghy's comments came as part of his broader, highly controversial claims about officiating and betting, which the league had already investigated separately. In the end, the league levied the fine. Van Gundy clarified, and no additional action followed. But the moment stayed on the record, another entry in the long and complicated saga of NBA coaches publicly questioning referee motives. Rodney Mott's suspension. On January 12, 2007, after a game between the Portland Trail Blazers and the Miami Heat, NBA referee Rodney Mott made an obscene gesture toward a fan and used inappropriate language. At the time, Mott was in his 9th season as an NBA official. The gesture and language were serious enough that the league handed him a 3-game suspension without pay. There was no official fine announced, and the NBA didn't release a detailed public explanation. But the decision made clear the league viewed the behavior as a violation of its professional standards. No appeal was filed, and Mott served the suspension. Years later, some analysts revisited the case and argued that Mott might have been used as a scapegoat. The theory was that his suspension helped the league deflect from bigger officiating criticisms happening at the time. Still, that didn't lead to any reversal or reduction in the penalty. The suspension stood. Despite the incident, Mott continued his career without major interruption. He returned to officiate regularly and was later selected to work the 2013 NBA All-Star Game, a clear sign of confidence in his performance after the suspension. The league never readdressed the gesture publicly, and Mott didn't issue any formal public statement about it. But within the NBA community, the suspension remained one of the few times a referee faced direct discipline for in-game fan interaction. Mott's career continued for years beyond the event, and while the moment stands out as a rare disciplinary action against an official, it didn't mark the end of his time in the league. It simply became a notable footnote in a longer officiating resume. 2006 NBA Finals officiating controversy. Game 5 between the Dallas Mavericks and Miami Heat became the centerpiece of debate when D. Wade was awarded free throws with just under 2 seconds left in overtime. That foul call led to the game-winning points and gave Miami a 3-2 series lead. By the end, Miami had 39 free throw attempts compared to Dallas's 25, but in Game 5 alone, Wade had more free throw attempts than the entire Mavericks team. Mark Cuban, Dallas's owner, publicly criticized the officiating. While he didn't use the word rigged directly, reports said he implied the league wanted a certain outcome. The NBA fined him $250,000 for his post-game conduct and comment. That became one of the largest fines ever handed out to an owner at the time. Tim Donaghy later entered the picture. After pleading guilty in a separate betting scandal, he claimed the Mavericks were screwed out of a championship in 2006. He said league officials influenced refs to help create dramatic series outcomes. He named the 2006 finals as a series allegedly affected by that mindset. The public, especially online, echoed those frustrations. Fans pointed out how many whistles favored Miami, and the foul on Wade near the end of Game 5 kept fueling suspicion. The idea that officiating tilted the series never went away. But despite the noise, no official investigation proved misconduct. The NBA never admitted wrongdoing or announced internal findings. The calls remained controversial, but the championship stood. Wade's performances were praised, the Heat were crowned, and the Mavericks had to wait 5 more years for a title. The officiating remains one of the most debated elements of that finals, fueled by close calls, emotional reactions, and lingering doubt from both fans and insiders. Courtney Kirkland, Shaun Livingston altercation. On December 3rd, 2017, during a game between the Warriors and the Heat, Golden State's Shaun Livingston got frustrated after a no call on a short jumper. He approached referee Courtney Kirkland, got in his face, and the two made contact, brushing foreheads on the baseline. Kirkland immediately hit Livingston with a technical foul and ejected him on the spot. The NBA reviewed the incident and determined that both were at fault. Livingston was suspended 1 game without pay for making physical contact with an official. Kirkland, though, didn't walk away clean either. The league removed him from the officiating rotation for 1 week, also without pay. He was allowed to return to the court starting December 11. Kiki Vandeweghe, who was NBA VP of basketball operations at the time, said Kirkland had moved toward Livingston during the confrontation and shared responsibility for escalating the contact. That statement made it clear the league wasn't pinning everything on the player. Kirkland explained afterward that Livingston was tossed for the contact alone and that it came on a single technical, not a second warning or ongoing back and forth. The tension was already high, and the brief forehead contact made the situation stand out even more. Warriors coach Steve Kerr supported the league's decision and said the punishment was fair. The situation was unusual. Referees don't often get suspended, but the league made it clear that officials also have a duty to de-escalate when things get heated. While the moment didn't spark a long-term feud, it remains one of the rare examples where both a player and a ref faced formal discipline after an in-game altercation. It also served as a public reminder that the league holds officials accountable for their role in maintaining control. Giannis ejection. On November 8, 2023, Giannis was ejected in the third quarter of a game between the Bucks and the Pistons after picking up his second unsportsmanlike technical foul. The first came late in the second quarter when he used profanity toward an official following a drive. The second came after a dunk. He stared down a defender and made the too small gesture. That was ruled taunting, triggering an automatic ejection. Crew Chief Rodney Mott explained in the official pool report that both techs fell under the league's unsportsmanlike conduct rules. According to NBA policy, 2 such violations in a game result in ejection, regardless of context. The ejection sparked immediate backlash. Media outlets like Sports Illustrated and SB Nation called the second technical excessive and even mocked it as one of the softest ejections in years. Online, Reddit lit up with fan reactions. One user compared it to Tim Duncan's ejection for laughing on the bench. Others argued the league was being too sensitive, while some speculated about officiating trends. Though those are opinions, not grounded in evidence. From a rule standpoint, the decision followed protocol. Still, the tone and severity of the second technical, especially in a routine celebration moment, turned it into a lightning rod for criticism. Many felt that the call ignored the emotion of the game and punished normal competitive energy. This incident didn't result in a fine or additional penalty for Giannis, and the league didn't walk the call back. But the debate over how far officials should go with taunting calls continues. The Giannis ejection became another example of where the rulebook and the spirit of the game clashed on a national stage. Earl Strom's Seattle incident. During the 1974-75 NBA season, after a game in Seattle, referee Earl Yogi Strom got involved in an unusual post-game altercation. While standing at the scorer's table, a woman approached him, likely looking to talk or get an autograph. Strom pushed her away, reportedly to create space. In response, Seattle Supersonics guard Fred Brown shoved Strom back into the crowd. Things didn't escalate further, thanks to Coach Bill Russell and fellow referee Hugh Evans, who quickly stepped in to separate the two. The moment was chaotic, but short-lived. Initially, the league wasn't light-handed. Then Commissioner J. Walter Kennedy intended to suspend Strom for 6 games. That penalty was later reduced to a $600 fine instead. Strom didn't accept the fine quietly. He appealed through the referees union, claiming he acted in self-defense. The union didn't press the appeal, but a year later, under new Commissioner Larry O'Brien, the fine was rescinded entirely, and Strom was reimbursed. No suspension was ever enforced, and Strom remained active as an official. The incident didn't lead to any known penalties for Fred Brown either. It became a rare instance of a player shoving a referee with no long-term consequences for either side. The league never released footage, and details of the event rely mostly on historical reporting and biographies. Still, The incident is often referenced as one of the stranger off-court referee altercations in NBA history, one where the punishment shifted, the appeal faded, and the check eventually came back. Bill Kennedy, Doc Rivers' ejection. On March 17, 2009, during a game between the Celtics and the Bulls, Coach Doc Rivers was ejected in the final 30 seconds after receiving a second technical foul. The Celtics were down 5 points with under 30 seconds to go when the ejection occurred, just after a timeout was called. Rivers told reporters afterward that referee Bill Kennedy stared him down and goaded him into reacting. He said, "He stood there and goaded me. He stared at me until I turned around. That's when I got thrown out of the game." The NBA fined Rivers $25,000 for publicly criticizing officiating, which is standard league practice. But the league also quietly fined Kennedy an undisclosed amount for how he handled the situation. The fine was tied specifically to how Kennedy engaged with Rivers during the timeout and how the escalation was managed. That didn't sit well with the referees union. Their spokesperson, Lamel McMorris, said Kennedy followed league protocol and removed himself from the confrontation as trained. He argued that punishing Kennedy could make it harder for referees to enforce rules confidently. The union also pointed to Rivers' own conduct, suggesting the coach had a pattern of unprofessional behavior toward officials. The league did not reverse either fine or issue further statements. The union's main concern was that fining an official for enforcing the rulebook could set a precedent that discourages refs from doing their jobs under pressure. This incident became one of the few times where both a coach and an official were fined, stemming from the same confrontation. While Rivers moved on and Kennedy kept officiating, the debate over how much authority referees should exercise and how they manage tense moments remained a hot topic. Steph and Seth Curry, their dad, Del Curry, spent 16 seasons in the NBA and finished as the all-time leading scorer for the Charlotte Hornets when he retired. He was a sharpshooter before the three-point craze took over, even winning Sixth Man of the Year in the early 90s. That's the kind of resume that opens doors and makes driveway shooting contests a little unfair. Steph took that legacy and launched himself into another galaxy. He played at Davidson, torched college hoops, then entered the NBA on his dad's birthday. He's won 4 championships, been named Most Valuable Player twice, and made more three-pointers than anyone ever. He even won the Finals Most Valuable Player award. He's also an 11-time All-Star, an Olympic gold medalist, and widely seen as the greatest shooter in the sport's history. The guy basically turned long-range shots into layups. Seth didn't get the hype, but he built a 10-year NBA career with elite shooting stats. He ranks top 10 all-time in three-point percentage, with a number just under 44%. He's played over 500 games, hitting double figures in scoring on consistent efficiency. Del's boys didn't just follow footsteps, they sprinted past them. Kobe Bryant, his father, Joe Jellybean Bryant, was drafted in the first round back in the 70s and spent 8 years playing for the Sixers, Clippers, and Rockets. He averaged around 9 points and 4 rebounds through over 600 games. After the NBA, he played overseas in Italy and France before switching to coaching. He worked at LaSalle, led the Los Angeles Sparks, and even coached in Japan and Thailand. Joe passed away in July 2024 at 69, but his legacy helped shape one of the greatest players of all time. Kobe took that early basketball life and turned it into 20 years of domination with the Lakers. He skipped college, went straight from high school into the NBA, and racked up 5 championships, 2 Finals Most Valuable Player awards, and 1 regular season Most Valuable Player. He made 18 All-Star teams, won the Slam Dunk Contest, and dropped 81 points in 1 game. He led the league in scoring twice and won 2 Olympic golds. His Mamba mentality changed how athletes approach competition. Off the court, he won an Oscar and launched a studio. Joe laid the groundwork, but Kobe built the empire. Jalen Brunson. His dad, Rick Brunson, spent nearly a decade bouncing around the NBA after going undrafted in the mid-90s. He played for 8 different teams and even had a short stint with the Knicks. After retiring, he moved into coaching and eventually joined the Knicks staff in 2022, just before Jalen signed with them. Rick's steady presence gave Jalen early access to the league's culture and expectations. Jalen tore up high school and then led Villanova to 2 national championships. In 2018, he won every major college award, had his jersey retired, and still managed to graduate early. He dropped to the second round in the draft, but Dallas took a chance, and he delivered. By 2022, he'd signed a $104 million deal with the Knicks and instantly became their engine. Since then, he's been named team captain, made the All-NBA second team, won Clutch Player of the Year, and shattered franchise records in both regular season and playoff games. He dropped 50 in 1 game and had a stretch of 4 straight 40-point playoff performances. He's now one of the league's most efficient, dependable scorers and a true leader. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Klay Thompson. His dad, Michael Thompson, was the #1 overall pick in the late 70s and played 14 seasons in the NBA. He averaged nearly 14 points and over 7 rebounds per game, eventually winning back-to-back championships with the Showtime Lakers. After retiring, he stayed in the game as a longtime Lakers radio analyst and has openly rooted for Klay to wear purple and gold, though that dream never happened. Klay played at Washington State before being drafted 11th overall by Golden State in 2011. He stayed there for 13 seasons, became part of the Splash Brothers with Steph Curry, and helped the team win 4 championships. He's been an All-Star 5 times, made All-NBA and All-Defensive teams, and won the three-point contest. Klay owns the NBA record for most points in a single quarter and most made threes in a game. After recovering from 2 major injuries, he came back in 2022 and helped the Warriors win another title. He joined the Mavericks in 2024 and in his debut hit 6 threes. He's now 5th all-time in career threes and has 10 seasons with at least 200 made. Dad had rings, Klay built a legacy. Devin Booker. His father, Melvin Booker, was a college star at Missouri in the early 90s, winning Big 8 Player of the Year and earning first-team All-American honors. He didn't get drafted, but played 32 games in the NBA and then spent over a decade playing professionally overseas. When he retired, he coached high school ball in Mississippi, where Devin later moved to train under him full-time. That decision shaped everything. Devin played 1 year at Kentucky, earned multiple conference honors, and entered the NBA draft in 2015. The Suns picked him 13th overall, and it didn't take long for him to make a name. He's now a 4-time All-Star, All-NBA first-team selection, and a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. He scored 70 in a game, dropped 50-plus multiple times, and recently became the Suns' all-time leading scorer. His scoring average has stayed near 24 points per game, peaking close to 28. He's ranked top 20 in league history for both scoring average and total scoring. On top of that, his shooting percentages have stayed high. While his playmaking has improved every year, Melvin taught the game, Devin took it, and became a franchise cornerstone and global star. Darius Garland. His dad, Winston Garland, spent 7 seasons in the NBA as a point guard before playing overseas. He averaged close to 8 points per game and later coached in Indiana, where he mentored young players, including his son. That early training environment helped shape Darius long before he hit the big stage. Darius was born in Michigan, but made his mark in Tennessee at Brentwood Academy, winning 4 state titles and becoming a 3-time Mr. Basketball, a top 5 national recruit. He committed to Vanderbilt but played only 5 games before a knee injury ended his season. That didn't stop the Cavaliers from drafting him 5th overall in 2019. Since then, he's grown into one of the league's most efficient guards. He earned his first All-Star nod in 2022 and made it again in 2025. The same year, he helped Cleveland secure the top seed in the Eastern Conference without LeBron James. He averaged over 20 points and nearly 7 assists, shot just under 50% from the field, and finished the season near the exclusive 50-40-90 club. With Winston's experience and Darius's poise, it's clear this father-son connection helped to produce a true NBA standout. Pistol, Pete Maravich. His dad, Press Maravich, played pro ball himself and later coached Pete at LSU. Press was a tough, old-school coach who raised Pete to see basketball as a lifestyle, not a hobby. Their bond was built around long hours in the gym, film study, and non-stop drill. And Press made sure Pete's training was decades ahead of its time. Pete exploded at LSU, scoring over 3,600 points in just 83 games. He averaged over 44 points per game without a 3-point line or shot clock, a record that still hasn't been touched. He was a 3-time national scoring leader and earned nearly every major college award you could name. By the time he was drafted 3rd overall in 1970, he was already a legend. In the NBA, he averaged 24 points across 10 seasons, made 5 All-Star teams, won a scoring title, and dropped 68 in a game against the Knicks. He was electric. No-look passes, circus shots, and creativity nobody had ever seen. His jerseys were retired by multiple teams, and he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Press built the foundation. Pete redefined the position, Domantas Sabonis. His dad, Arvydas Sabonis, is a basketball icon, an all-time great from Lithuania who dominated Europe before finally joining the NBA at almost 31 years old. He was drafted in the 80s, but couldn't enter the league until the mid-90s because of injuries and political red tape. Even then, his passing, shooting, and size left NBA legends in awe. He was eventually inducted into both the FIBA and Naismith Hall of Fame. Domantas was born in Portland, While Arvydas was with the Trail Blazers, he grew up overseas, but eventually carved his own path in the NBA. Drafted 11th overall in 2016, he moved from Oklahoma City to Indiana, then landed in Sacramento. He's become a 3-time All-Star and made 2 All-NBA teams. He's led the league in rebounds 3 straight seasons and averaged nearly 20 points, 14 boards, and 6 assists in 2025. He's had games with over 40 points, 28 rebounds, and 16 assists. He's also recorded 25 triple-doubles. Injuries have tested him, including a hamstring strain in March, but he's remained one of the league's most consistent all-around bigs. Arvydas opened the door. Doe Montes has sprinted through it. Kevin Love, his dad, Stan Love, was drafted in the first round back in the 70s and played 4 seasons in the NBA and ABA. He averaged just under 7 points and 4 rebounds per game, with stints in Baltimore, Los Angeles, and San Antonio. He also worked closely with the Beach Boys, but his NBA background gave Kevin early access to the game and structure. Kevin became a 5-star recruit, dominated high school, then headed to UCLA, where he became a consensus first-team All-American in 1 season. In the 2008 draft, he was picked 5th overall and traded to Minnesota. He led the league in rebounds, won Most Improved Player, and claimed the 3-point contest title. In Cleveland, he helped deliver the franchise's first championship in 2016. He's been an All-Star 5 times and made 2 All-NBA teams. By 2025, he'd played nearly 1,000 games, averaged over 16 points and 10 rebounds, and had more than 400 double-doubles. He's one of only a few players with multiple seasons of 26 and 12. Stan had a short career. Kevin turned that legacy into championships, longevity, and consistent production for nearly 2 decades. Jaren Jackson Jr. His dad, Jaren Jackson Sr., played 13 years in the NBA without even being drafted, winning a championship with the Spurs in 1999. After retiring, he coached and helped develop young players, including his son. That hands-on training gave Jaren Jr. a serious head start in both skill and discipline. Jaren Jr. played 1 season at Michigan State before being drafted 4th overall in 2018. He made an early impact and quickly built a reputation as a dominant defender. He's already a 2-time All-Star, a Defensive Player of the Year, a 2-time League Blocks leader, and has earned multiple All-Defensive Team honors. He's posted regular averages near 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game. In 2025, he was averaging 22 points per game before injuries slowed him down. Even with the turf toe surgery and earlier ankle issues, Memphis offered him a 5-year, $240 million extension. That kind of deal tells you how much the franchise values him. Jaren Sr. was a solid vet and champion. Jaren Jr. is a 2-way star and the future of the Grizzlies. The legacy just keeps growing. Andrew Wiggins. His dad, Mitchell Wiggins, played 6 seasons in the NBA as a guard for the Rockets, Bulls, and Sixers. He was drafted in the first round back in the 70s and even had a clutch tip-in during the 1986 finals. That experience gave Andrew direct exposure to the professional game from day one. Mitchell passed away in 2024, just months before Andrew's trade to Miami. Andrew was drafted 1st overall in 2014 and traded to the Timberwolves, where he won Rookie of the Year. He scored over 8,000 points in Minnesota and still ranked 2nd in franchise history. In 2022, he became an All-Star and helped the Warriors win the championship, playing a key 2-way role. By 2025, he had topped 14,000 career points, with averages just over 18 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists per game. After getting traded to the Heat, he made a strong debut against his old team and remains a reliable contributor. Mitchell gave him the blueprint. Andrew turned it into a long, productive career with championship pedigree. Jeremy Grant. His dad, Harvey Grant, played 11 years in the NBA after being drafted 12th overall in 1988. He had stints with the Bullets, Trailblazers, and Sixers, and is also the twin brother of Horace Grant, who won 4 titles with the Bulls and Lakers. Jeremy was actually born in Portland while Harvey was with the team, tying his origin directly to his father's career. Jeremy entered the NBA as a 2nd-round pick in 2014. He started with Philadelphia, then developed his game across stops in Oklahoma City, Denver, and Detroit before returning to Portland via trade. By 2025, he was in year 2 of a 5-year, $160 million deal. His numbers this season include about 14 points, 3.5 rebounds, and just over 2 assists per game, though his shooting has dipped to under 38%. Despite that, his size, defensive ability, and scoring versatility keep him valuable in rotations. He started 43 games this year, continuing to log over 30 minutes per night. Harvey carved out a long NBA run. Jeremy born into the game, has turned that foundation into a career of steady impact and major league value. Wesley Matthews Jr. His dad, Wes Matthews Sr., played 9 seasons in the NBA and won back-to-back titles with the Showtime Lakers in the late 80s. He averaged just under 8 points and over 4 assists per game, playing for multiple teams across the league. After retiring, he continued his career overseas, which led to a complicated relationship with his son during Wesley's childhood. Wesley Jr. grew up in Wisconsin with his mother, Pam Moore, who was a standout college athlete herself. He starred at Marquette and went undrafted in 2009, but quickly earned a spot with the Jazz. By 2010, he was a full-time starter and signed a 5-year deal with Portland. Nicknamed Iron Man, he once played 250 straight games and became the Blazers' all-time leader in made threes. He went on to sign a $70 million contract with Dallas and later played for Indiana, New York, Milwaukee, the Lakers, and Atlanta. As of the 2024 season, he's played over 980 games, scored more than 11 points per game across his career, and logged nearly 1,000 made threes. Wes Sr. had the rings. Wes Jr. earned the respect. Al Horford, his dad, Tito Horford, made history as the first Dominican-born player in the NBA. Drafted in 1988, Tito played just over 60 games with low-scoring numbers, but his biggest contribution came off the court. He laid the foundation for Al, coaching him early and keeping the basketball legacy alive at home. Al was born in the Dominican Republic, but moved to Michigan as a teen, where he broke records at Grand Ledge High. Then he went on to win back-to-back college titles at Florida, before getting drafted 3rd overall in 2007 by Atlanta. He jumped right in with an all-rookie first-team nod and never looked back. 18 seasons later, Al's racked up 5 All-Star selections, an All-NBA third team, a defense honor, and even a championship in 2024, becoming the first Dominican-born NBA champion. He's played for Boston, Philly, Atlanta, and OKC, and stayed consistent the whole way through. As of 2025, he's a free agent with over 40,000 minutes logged, still grabbing boards, making smart plays, and blocking shots like a seasoned pro. The Warriors are eyeing him, and honestly, I get it. Gary Payton II. His dad, Gary Payton, was one of the most dominant defensive guards the league's ever seen. Nicknamed the Glove, he made 9 All-Star teams, won Defensive Player of the Year, and brought home a championship with Miami. That Hall of Fame resume set a sky-high bar. Gary Payton II was born during his dad's run in Seattle, but his journey didn't follow the same script. He started out at Salt Lake Community College, then transferred to Oregon State, where he locked down back-to-back Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year awards. Just like his dad, but on his own terms. He went undrafted in 2016, spent time in the G League, and made noise with a 51-point game. In 2021, he became the G League's top defender and steals leader. His shot with Golden State started with a short contract, but it led to a full season role and a ring in 2022. Now with the Warriors again, he's been a key piece on defense, averaging 6 points a game before his thumb injury. Even his dad admitted he pushed too hard early on, but Gary Payton II carved out a legit NBA career his way. Tim Hardaway Jr. His dad, Tim Hardaway, was known for breaking ankles with the UTEP two-step and making 5 All-Star teams. He played from 1989 through 2003 and won gold with Team USA in the 2000 Olympics. He later coached with the Pistons and became a Hall of Famer. In 2022, Tim Jr. carved out his own path, starting at Michigan and helping lead them to a national title game before going 24th overall to the Knicks in 2013. Since then, he's played for 5 teams and built a solid veteran career, known for shooting and scoring in bunches. In the 2025 season with Detroit, he started all 77 games and averaged 11 points per game while hitting nearly 37% from deep. Over 12 seasons, he's averaged nearly 14 points a night. He also just passed his dad in total three-pointers made. He signed a new deal with the Nuggets this summer and will now suit up alongside one of the league's top contenders. From college standout to consistent scoring threat, Tim Jr.'s turned a famous last name into a legit NBA legacy of his own. Kiki Vandeweghe, his dad, Ernie Vandeweghe, played 6 seasons with the Knicks, averaging just under 10 points a game before pivoting to a career as a physician. He became the Lakers' team doctor, worked with the U.S. Air Force, and even influenced federal sports policy through Title IX. His mix of athletic and academic excellence gave Kiki a foundation built on focus and high expectations. Kiki was born in West Germany, while Ernie was serving overseas. He played at UCLA, helped the Bruins reach the NCAA title game, then got picked 11th overall in 1980. His pro career spanned 13 seasons with Denver, Portland, New York, and the Clippers. He made 2 All-Star teams and averaged almost 20 points a game, including nearly 30 in one season. His signature step back made defenders look silly, and he logged multiple 50-point games during his prime. After retiring, Kiki moved into front office roles, helping develop stars like Dirk and Carmelo. As a league executive, he helped implement replay review and shaped league operations for nearly a decade. He's now an advisor. From scorer to strategist, Kiki's carved out a lasting role in the league, on and off the floor. Mike Bibby, his dad Henry Bibby, won 3 straight NCAA titles at UCLA in the early 70s and played 9 NBA seasons as a steady point guard. After retiring, he coached in the pros in college, racking up 2 titles in the Continental League and nearly a decade at USC. He also mentored Mike from early on, helping him build a high IQ, team-first game rooted in control and confidence. Mike took that legacy and ran with it. He led Arizona to a national championship as a freshman and earned Pac-10 Player of the Year honors the very next season. Drafted 2nd overall in 1998 by Vancouver, he made the all-rookie first team and spent 14 seasons putting up solid numbers, nearly 15 points and over 5 assists per game. He hit his stride in Sacramento, where his clutch play helped define that era of Kings basketball. Now, after years of high school coaching, Mike's stepping into college leadership as the new head coach at Sacramento State. With a father who won titles and coached at every level, and a son who delivered on big stages and now leads a program of his own, the Bibby story's got serious generational weight. Cole Anthony, his dad, Greg Anthony, won a national title at UNLV and went on to play 11 seasons in the NBA as a dependable point guard. After retiring, he became a familiar voice on TV, breaking down the game while raising his son around that high-level basketball energy. Cole grew up in Manhattan and made waves early. He averaged a triple-double his senior year at Oak Hill, something no one else at that school had done. Then he won MVP at every major high school all-star event in 2019. At North Carolina, he dropped 34 points in his debut and still averaged over 18 points a game even after missing time with injury. Orlando picked him 15th in the 2020 draft, and he's been a steady contributor ever since. He's had buzzer beaters, hot streaks, and some clutch late-game heroics. After 5 seasons with the Magic, he got traded to Memphis in the Desmond Bane deal, then hit the buyout market. Now he's expected to sign with Milwaukee, whether it's leading a powerhouse high school, taking over at UNC, or adjusting roles in the league. Cole's carved out his own space. Talent, hustle, and all, no shortcuts. Scottie Pippen Jr., his dad, Scottie Pippen, helped define winning in the 90s, snatching 6 NBA titles with the Bulls and locking down the league's best as one of the most versatile defenders ever. A 7-time All-Star, Hall of Famer, and part of both the 50th and 75th anniversary teams. His resume practically breaks the internet. Scottie Jr. was born in Portland and eventually starred at Vanderbilt, where he led the SEC in scoring and earned back-to-back all-conference honors. Despite all that, he went undrafted in 2022, signing a 2-way contract with the Lakers and grinding through the G League. By early 2024, the Grizzlies brought him in, and by that October, he'd earned a full multi-year NBA contract. In just 21 games, he averaged nearly 13 points and almost 5 assists, including a triple-double in a win over Washington. That made him and his dad the first father-son duo in NBA history to each record won. He kept it going in the playoffs, dropping 30 points in his final game. With a new contract and steady minutes, he's officially out of the shadow, building a name that's familiar, but now stands on its own. Larry Nance Jr. His dad, Larry Nance, was a 3-time All-Star who won the very first NBA Slam Dunk Contest back in 1984. He played 14 seasons, averaged 17 points and 8 rebounds, and became one of the league's best shot blockers of his era. Cleveland even retired his jersey, a serious nod to how much he meant to that team. Larry Jr. followed up with a strong college run at Wyoming, earning first-team All-Mountain West and Defensive Player of the Year honors before getting drafted 27th overall by the Lakers in 2015. He played in LA, then got traded to Cleveland, where he wore his dad's retired number. After getting the green light from the man himself, he later suited up for the Trailblazers, Pelicans, and Hawks before returning to Cleveland again in 2025. In between, he made his own mark, highlighted by a slam dunk contest appearance, solid rebounding, and strong defense. Even after battling multiple injuries last season, he stayed in the league's rotation and brought steady minutes off the bench. He's not just carrying a name, he's built a real career out of energy, hustle, and grit. Brent Barry. His dad, Rick Barry, was a scoring legend who won a title and finals MVP in 1975. He led the NCAA, ABA, and NBA in scoring, and made 8 All-Star teams. Rick also became the first player to raise 3 sons who all made it to the NBA, including Brent, who took that last name and built something real with it. Brent was drafted 15th in 1995 and got traded to the Clippers right away. In his rookie season, he made the all-rookie second team and shocked everybody by winning the slam dunk contest and launching from the free throw line for the win. He played 14 seasons with 6 teams, including the Spurs, where he won 2 championships. He averaged over 9 points per game in more than 900 appearances and shot better than 40% from 3. He wasn't flashy like his dad, but he was efficient and versatile. After retiring, he became a broadcaster, then moved into the Spurs front office. As of 2024, he's now an assistant coach with the Suns. Brent didn't chase his dad's style. He carved out a legacy with balance, skill, and smarts. Danny Shays. His dad, Dolph Shays, was an NBA Titan, 12-time All-Star, NBA champ, Hall of Famer, and one of the game's original stat stuffers. He dominated in the 50s and 60s and literally played more games than anyone else at the time. If that wasn't enough pressure, he also landed on every anniversary team the league ever made. Danny stepped right into that shadow and still made something real out of his career. After starring at Syracuse University and grabbing all Big East honors, he got drafted 13th overall in 1981. From there, he hung around for 18 seasons. That's not a typo, 18 years. He played for 7 different teams and appeared in over 1,100 games, averaging nearly 8 points and 5 rebounds. His best season came in Denver, where he put up over 13 a game and elevated that to 16 during the playoffs. He later shifted into media and business, still staying close to the game. While his dad was a Hall of Fame pioneer, Danny carved out his own lane. Quietly durable, always smart, and undeniably respect. In the world of Nepo babies, this one played the long game and won. Jay Crowder, his dad, Corey Crowder, played briefly in the NBA and built a solid career in Europe, winning titles in Spain and suiting up across Italy, France, and Israel. He averaged just over 2 points per game in the league, but his influence went way beyond stats. He was Jay's first coach, workout partner, and mentor, grinding with him daily and shaping his mindset long before his son got a real jersey. Jay started in junior college before transferring to Marquette, where he won Big East Player of the Year and became a second-team All-American. Known for his toughness, hustle, and defense, he entered the league as the 34th pick in 2012, landing with Dow. From there, he became one of the most dependable role players in the NBA, bouncing through Boston, Memphis, Miami, Phoenix, Milwaukee, and now Sacramento. He's hit big shots, guarded elite wings, and brought physical edge to playoff teams for over a decade. And in a full circle moment, the Jazz once gifted him his dad's game-worn sneaker. Not bad for a guy who started as a second-round pick. Jay's story isn't flashy, but it's carved in sweat, grit, and staying power. Mike Dunleavy Jr., his dad, Mike Dunleavy Sr., spent 14 seasons in the league, played for multiple teams, and averaged 8 points a game. But his real legacy came after, coaching 4 different NBA teams, winning Coach of the Year with the Blazers, and later becoming a college coach. He was around basketball constantly, and his son soaked it all in. Dunleavy Jr. played 3 seasons at Duke, winning a national championship in 2001 and dropping 21 points in the title game. The next year, he averaged over 17 points and made first-team All-American. He was drafted 3rd overall by Golden State in 2002 and played 15 seasons in the league. He suited up for 6 teams and racked up almost 1,000 games, averaging more than 11 points and over 40% from deep. His best year came with Indiana, where he averaged 19 points a game. After retiring, he joined the Warriors front office, eventually rising to general manager in 2023. He helped build their 2022 title team from the executive side. His dad may have coached, but Dunleavy Jr. has done it all, from title runs on the court to pulling strings behind the scene. Danny Manning. His dad, Ed Manning, played in both the NBA and ABA, suiting up for 6 teams and averaging about 6 points and 4 rebounds. After retiring, he stepped into coaching and became an assistant at Kansas, where he helped guide the Jayhawks to the 1988 national title. He later worked in the NBA as an assistant and scout, continuing to shape young talent, including his son. Danny didn't just follow the blueprint, he rewrote it. At Kansas, he became the program's all-time leading scorer and rebounder and won every Major Player of the Year award. His 31-point, 18-rebound performance in the NCAA title game sealed his legacy. The Clippers took him 1st overall in the 1988 draft, and despite dealing with injuries, he played 14 seasons in the league. He earned 2 All-Star nods won Sixth Man of the Year in 1998, and scored over 12,000 career points. He later returned to Kansas as a coach, helping them win another national title in 2008 before leading programs at Tulsa, Wake Forest, and now serving as an assistant at Colorado. The Manning legacy didn't just survive, it expanded. Jabari Smith Jr., his dad, Jabari Smith Sr., played 4 seasons in the NBA and then built a career overseas in Spain, Turkey, and beyond. He averaged around 2 points per game in the league, but left a major impact off the stat sheet, training and mentoring his son every step of the way. That foundation clearly paid off. Jabari Jr. dominated in high school, was named Mr. Basketball in Georgia, and earned spots in the McDonald's All-American Game and Jordan Brand Classic. At Auburn, he averaged nearly 17 points a game, shot over 40% from deep, and stacked up awards. Freshman of the Year, First Team All-SEC, and All-American honors. He went 3rd overall in the 2022 NBA Draft to the Rockets and immediately landed on the All-Rookie second team. Through 2 seasons, he's averaged 13 points and 7.5 rebounds per game. In the 2025 playoffs, he boosted his efficiency and played a key role in Houston's climb to the 2 seed. This summer, the Rockets locked him in with a 5-year, $122 million extension. Jabari Jr.'s not just living up to his name, he's helping shape Houston's identity. Wally Szczerbiak. His dad, Walter Szczerbiak, didn't just play ball, he ran Europe. After being drafted by the Phoenix Suns in the early 70s, Walter skipped the NBA and built his legacy overseas, especially with Real Madrid. He won 3 EuroLeague titles, 3 FIBA Intercontinental Cups, and finished as Spain's top scorer in 1976. He's even listed as one of the 50 greatest contributors in European club history. So yeah, big shoes. Wally didn't just inherit the name, he made it count. Born in Madrid, raised partly in Europe, then relocated to Long Island, he turned heads at Cold Spring Harbor High by averaging over 36 points and nearly 16 rebounds per game. That earned him a spot at Miami of Ohio, where he became the MAC Player of the Year and had his number retired after dropping over 1,800 points in 4 years. Then came the NBA. He went 6th overall in the 1999 draft and played 10 seasons across Minnesota, Boston, Seattle, and Cleveland. Wally was an all-star in 2002, made the all-rookie team, and knocked down over 40% of his threes in 651 games. Now, he's breaking down games as an analyst. Garrett Temple. His dad, Collis Temple Jr., wasn't just a player, he was a trailblazer. Back in 1971, he became the first African American to play basketball at LSU. A few years later, he got drafted by the Phoenix Suns and played a season with the San Antonio Spurs. The numbers weren't flashy, but the significance was huge. Garrett followed that path, literally, to LSU, joining both his father and brother as Tigers. While Garrett didn't dominate the stat sheets in college, he played more minutes than anyone in LSU history, over 4,400. He averaged solid numbers across the board and earned the second team all-conference and all-defense team honors his senior year. Then came the grind. Undrafted in 2009, he clawed his way into the league through the D-League, eventually sticking for over 15 years. He suited up for teams like the Rockets, Wizards, Kings, Pelicans, and Raptors. He's passed milestones like 1,200 assists and 700 three-pointers, proving consistency counts. Off the court, he's a mentor, union leader, and steady voice in every locker room he joins. Married to a former Miss USA, raising 2 kids, leading clean water projects, he's got legacy written all over him. Gerald Henderson Jr. His dad, Gerald Henderson Sr., was in the league for 13 seasons and picked up 3 championship rings along the way. He's best remembered for a game-tying steal and layup in the 1984 finals that helped push Boston to a title. After that, he finished his career strong and switched gears into real estate in Pennsylvania. He was inducted into the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame in 2012. Gerald Jr. took a different path, but stayed in the game. Born in New Jersey, he played high school ball in Pennsylvania before heading to Duke. His early years there were quiet, but by his junior season, he was averaging 16.5 points and earning first-team all-conference honors. He got drafted 12th overall in 2009 by Charlotte and played 8 NBA seasons. Across 535 games, he put up 11 points, 3 rebounds, and almost 2 assists per game. He had his best season in 2012, leading Charlotte in scoring. Injuries eventually caught up with him, and after hip surgery, he retired in 2019. But he didn't leave the game. He just grabbed a mic and joined the broadcast world. Nikola Jokic. He got passed on 40 times in the 2014 NBA draft before the Nuggets finally grabbed him at pick number 41. Why? Because teams doubted just about everything, except his passport. His athleticism got questioned the most. Scouts said he lacked explosiveness at the rim and couldn't finish strong enough inside. His shooting stats didn't help either. In the Adriatic League, he made 15 threes out of 68 attempts. That's just 22%, which definitely didn't scream future MVP. Plus, he played overseas in Serbia, not at a big US college, so he flew under the radar. One of the most documented passes came from the Raptors, who had the 37th pick and chose DeAndre Daniels instead. Yeah, they considered Jokic, but not enough to actually do it. Plus, the Raptors are the only team who had any other reported interest during the draft. 40 different picks, 30 teams, and nobody pulled the trigger until Denver. Now he's a multiple-time MVP, a franchise changer, and easily one of the biggest draft steals ever. The crazy part, he was picked during a Taco Bell commercial. That's how off the radar he was. Teams didn't just miss, they missed big. Denver's the only one that took the risk, and it paid off in a huge way. Steph Curry, he got drafted 7th in 2009, but only after the Timberwolves swerved around him twice in a row. With the 5th pick, they took Ricky Rubio from Spain, then at 6th, they grabbed Johnny Flynn from Syracuse. Both were point guards. Curry was still sitting there, but Minnesota kept it moving. According to reports, Curry's own father even told them not to draft his son, which might have nudged their decision too. Now, to be fair, teams had legit concerns. Curry came from Davidson, not exactly a powerhouse. He was seen as undersized, not super athletic, and had a history of ankle injuries that made people nervous. Sure, he could shoot, but scouts wondered if that'd be enough against pro-level defense. Minnesota rolled the dice on Rubio's international resume and Flynn's college stats, thinking Curry's shooting wouldn't carry over. But that 7th pick, Golden State made it, and it flipped the script. Curry's now a multi-time MVP, won several rings, and basically redefined how the league thinks about shooting. Meanwhile, Flynn's NBA career was over in a flash, and Rubio never hit that star level. Passing on Curry twice became one of the biggest missed chances ever. Michael Jordan. He went 3rd in the 1984 NBA draft, but not before 2 teams made choices they'd regret forever. The Houston Rockets had the 1st pick and chose Hakeem. That made sense. They needed a center and Hakeem was dominant. But then came the Portland Trail Blazers. With the 2nd pick, they took Sam Bowie, another center. Why? Because they already had Clyde Drexler and felt like another shooting guard wasn't what they needed. The front office in Portland thought Bowie filled a positional hole. He was a 7-footer, and back then, size ruled. But Bowie had an injury history in college that teams knew about. Still, Portland made their pick based on need, not talent. Jordan was right there, a national champion with North Carolina, known for his scoring and athleticism, and they let him slide. Once the Bulls picked him at 3, it was over. Jordan went on to win 6 NBA titles and 5 MVPs, and became one of the most iconic athletes ever. The Blazers' decision to pass on him is now a textbook case of choosing fit over greatness. And yeah, that one still stings more than a little. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Giannis. He was picked 15th overall in the 2013 draft, but not before 14 teams let him slide right past them. That includes the Mavericks, who reportedly had scouts pushing hard to take him, but ownership said no. And with that, the Bucks pounced. The Cavaliers had the 1st pick and chose Anthony Bennett. Remember him? Probably not. That's how wild this draft ended up. Giannis came from Greece, playing for Philadelphia, which didn't exactly scream NBA ready to most front offices. His skills were raw, his shooting was a question mark, and his competition level didn't help his case. Scouts saw the tools, length, athleticism, upside, but a lot of them weren't ready to wait for all that to develop. Teams wanted production, not projects. Still, Milwaukee saw something, and what they got was a 2-time MVP, a Defensive Player of the Year, and an NBA champion. It's one thing to pass on talent. It's another to ignore your own scouts. That's what makes the Mavericks pass especially brutal. 14 teams had the chance. Only one took it. That 15th pick turned into one of the best players of his generation. Luka. He was picked 3rd in the 2018 NBA draft, but not before the Suns and Kings both passed on him. Phoenix went with DeAndre Ayton 1st, and Sacramento took Marvin Bagley the 3rd right after. Luka had already dominated Europe, winning EuroLeague MVP and a championship with Real Madrid, but somehow he still slipped past the top 2 spots. Sacramento's decision came down to roster fit. Their general manager at the time, Divac, said they already had De'Aaron Fox and didn't need another guard, so they passed on Luka for a big man. That pick didn't exactly age well. Meanwhile, Atlanta selected Luka at number 3, but immediately traded him to Dallas for Trae Young and a protected future pick. The Mavericks didn't hesitate. Once in the league, Luka wasted no time proving everyone wrong. He won Rookie of the Year, became a multi-time All-Star, made all NBA first teams, and even broke records for youngest triple-double. He's listed at 6 feet 8 inches and plays like he's 2 steps ahead of everyone. The Suns and Kings had their shot, and both let it go. That third pick, Dallas turned it into a franchise cornerstone. Expect they traded him to the Lakers years later. Kobe Bryant, he was taken 13th overall in the 1996 draft, but 12 teams made their picks first, and none of them picked him. The New Jersey Nets had the 8th pick and considered him seriously, but went with Kerry Kittles instead. The Clippers had the 7th pick, reportedly loved his workout, and still chose Lou Renzen Wright. Charlotte finally picked him, then traded him to the Lakers for Divac, so technically, even they passed on keeping him. At the time, teams weren't rushing to draft high school guards. Kobe was just 17, and front offices were nervous about maturity, physical readiness, and how he'd stack up against seasoned college talent. It didn't help that taking a shooting guard that young was still considered risky. Teams weren't sure he'd be ready for the NBA grind, but they were wrong. Kobe became a 5-time NBA champion, won an MVP, grabbed 2 Finals MVPs, and was selected to 18 All-Star games. He scored over 33,000 points in his career. Every team that picked ahead of him had the chance. Some showed interest, all passed. That 13th pick ended up being one of the greatest to ever play, Kevin Durant. He went 2nd overall in the 2007 NBA draft, but not before the Portland Trail Blazers made the choice to pass on him. With the number 1 pick, they selected Greg Oden, a 7-foot center out of Ohio State. That single decision left Durant available for the Seattle Supersonics, who didn't hesitate to grab him. Coming out of Texas, Durant had just averaged over 25 points and 11 rebounds per game as a freshman. He was long, athletic, and already showing signs of being an elite scorer. Portland's choice was based on need. They wanted a dominant big man, and Oden's size and defense checked that box. Meanwhile, Durant was viewed as more of a finesse scorer, and there were questions about his strength and frame. Still, the numbers spoke loudly, and the decision to pass on him turned out to be one of the biggest draft what-ifs in league history. Durant went on to win Rookie of the Year, multiple scoring titles, an MVP, and NBA championships. Oden, unfortunately, struggled with injuries and played only a handful of games. That number 1 pick could have changed everything. Portland had the chance. Seattle cashed in. Larry Bird, he was picked 6th overall in the 1978 NBA draft, which means 5 teams passed on him before the Celtics made the call. That list includes the Indiana Pacers, who had the number 1 pick and didn't take the homegrown superstar. Instead, they passed, and some in their front office have publicly regretted it ever since. Nancy Leonard, part of their leadership team at the time, said the board voted against drafting Bird, even though she and the head coach were in favor. Why the hesitation? Bird had made it clear he was returning to Indiana State for 1 more season, so any team drafting him would have to wait. On top of that, there was the fear of not being able to sign him later. Some execs worried he'd command too much money, or that they'd lose his rights if they didn't close a deal quickly, so teams played it safe. Boston didn't. They drafted him anyway, waited a year, and then watched him turn their team around fast. In his rookie season, the Celtics jumped from 29 wins to 61. 3 titles, 3 MVPs, and a Hall of Fame career later. Those 5 passes look even worse. Shea, he was drafted 11th overall in 2018, but 10 teams had the chance to grab him first and didn't. Charlotte made the pick at 11, then flipped him to the Clippers for Miles Bridges and 2 second-rounders. So yeah, even the team that picked him passed, in a way. Scouts liked his size and wingspan, but weren't sold on the rest. His frame was lean, his shooting volume was low, and there were doubts about whether he had enough burst to create in the NBA. Despite his solid numbers at Kentucky, teams questioned if he'd ever become more than a role player. One scouting report straight up said he didn't project as a star. The Knicks even drafted his college teammate Kevin Knox over him. His rookie year with the Clippers was solid, and by the next season, he was part of the Paul George trade to Oklahoma City. Fast forward to now, and he's an MVP, a scoring champ, and a Finals MVP, all from the 11th pick. 10 teams passed. 1 team picked and traded him, and Oklahoma City ended up with a franchise cornerstone because nobody else saw it coming. James Harden, he was drafted 3rd overall in the 2009 NBA draft, which means 2 teams passed on him before the Thunder called his name. The Clippers had the 1st pick and selected Blake Griffin. The Grizzlies picked 2nd and went with Hasheem Thabeet. That's how Harden ended up sitting there at number 3, a future MVP, just waiting. At Arizona State, Harden had solid numbers, but wasn't seen as flashy or freakishly athletic. Scouts liked his feel for the game, but questioned whether his scoring would hold up in the NBA. Meanwhile, Griffin was all power and highlight reels. Harden thrived in Oklahoma City, won Sixth Man of the Year, and then got traded to Houston in 2012. That's where he exploded. He became an MVP, a scoring champ, and a walking offensive system. So even though only 2 teams passed, it still counts. They had the chance. Harden became one of the best scorers of his era. Dirk Nowitzki. He was picked 9th overall in the 1998 NBA draft by the Milwaukee Bucks, but not for long. They traded his rights, along with Pat Garrity, to the Mavericks in exchange for Robert Traylor. So technically, Milwaukee picked Dirk, then passed on him. That deal became one of the most lopsided draft day trades ever. Dirk had been playing in Germany for DJK Würzburg, so he wasn't the most familiar name to NBA front offices. Some teams didn't know what to make of a 7-footer with a jump shot, and even though he went top 10, 8 teams picked other players ahead of him. Milwaukee's decision to trade him after drafting him is the real headline. They had a future MVP in their hands and gave him away for a player who never hit that level. Dirk spent 21 seasons with Dallas, won MVP in 2007, and led them to a championship in 2011 as Finals MVP. He became a 14-time All-Star and a global icon. The Bucks could have had all of that. Instead, they watched from the sideline. They didn't just pass on him, they handed him over. And Dallas never looked back. Jalen Brunson, he was selected 33rd overall in the 2018 NBA draft, meaning 32 players were taken before him. Every one of those teams had a shot and passed. The Mavericks made the pick early in the second round, despite Brunson winning National Player of the Year, the Bob Cousy Award, and leading Villanova to a national title just months earlier. So why did he fall? Scouts focused on his size. At 6'2", he was viewed as undersized for a lead guard. He wasn't considered super explosive, and there were doubts about how he'd hold up on defense against bigger, faster players. Even though he was one of the most polished guards in the draft, teams overlooked him for prospects with more perceived upside. Dallas took him anyway, signed him to a 4-year deal, and let him work. He didn't start off flashy, but by the time he left in 2022, he was one of their best players. The Knicks gave him a 4-year, $104 million deal, and he earned every penny. From 33rd pick to All-Star, Kawhi Leonard, he was picked 15th overall in the 2011 NBA draft by the Indiana Pacers, who immediately traded his rights to the Spurs for George Hill. That alone already qualifies as a miss, but it gets worse. 14 teams made picks ahead of him. 14 teams passed. He came out of San Diego State with 2 seasons of college ball, a big wingspan, and the kind of defensive profile coaches dream about. But scouts weren't sold on his offense. His jumper looked shaky, and his role in the NBA was described as hard to define. That label helped push him down the board. Teams picked bigs, guards, scorers, everything but the guy who ended up winning 2 championships and 2 finals MVPs. Kawhi didn't just turn into a solid player. He became a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, a multi-time All-Star, and a finals closer. The Spurs saw the value and pulled the trigger. The Pacers traded him. Everyone else, they let him slide. Those first 14 picks are now a list of what could have been. Kawhi went at 15. That's 15 chances to change a franchise. Only one team saw it, and it wasn't the one that drafted. Russell Westbrook. He was drafted 4th overall in the 2008 NBA draft by the Seattle Supersonics, just before they became the Oklahoma City Thunder. That means 3 teams made their picks before him and passed. The Bulls took Derrick Rose at number 1, the Heat picked Michael Beasley at 2, and the Grizzlies went with O.J. Mayo at 3. Westbrook was right there, but they all looked elsewhere. At UCLA, Westbrook was electric on defense and known for his athleticism, but he wasn't a polished scorer yet. Scouts liked the energy, but questioned if he could run an NBA offense. He wasn't the typical floor general, so when draft day came, teams leaned toward prospects with more developed scoring or perceived star-ready tools. Turns out, Oklahoma City got the right one. Westbrook became a 9-time All-Star, won MVP in 2017, and made triple-doubles a routine stat line. His MVP season, over 31 points, 10 assists, and 10 rebounds per game. He did things nobody expected from a 4th pick. While the top 3 had talent, only one of them rewrote the record books. Westbrook wasn't just passed on, he was underestimated. Donovan Mitchell. He was taken 13th overall in the 2017 NBA draft by the Denver Nuggets, then immediately traded to the Utah Jazz. That means 12 teams picked before him, and all 12 passed. Pre-draft scouting liked his wingspan, his athleticism, and his finishing ability, but his shooting consistency and positional fit led to hesitation. Some thought he might be too small for shooting guard and not polished enough for point guard. He played 2 seasons at Louisville and averaged about 15 points per game as a sophomore. But despite his explosive play, teams ahead of Utah opted for other prospects. The Jazz didn't blink. They got Mitchell and watched him instantly outperform expectations. Since entering the league, he's become a multi-time All-Star, a playoff regular, and in 2023, he dropped 71 points in a game, a Cavaliers franchise record. He's had consistent scoring output every season and stepped up as a team leader everywhere he's played. 12 picks came and went. Teams wanted safer bets or flashier names. Utah made the trade, and it paid off. Mitchell didn't just rise, he exploded. The teams that passed, they watched from the box score. Charles Barkley, he was drafted 5th overall in the 1984 NBA draft by the Philadelphia 76ers, which means 4 teams passed on him. The Rockets went first and took Hakeem. The Blazers picked Sam Bowie 2nd. The Bulls took Michael Jordan 3rd. The Mavericks picked Sam Perkins at number 4. Then came Barkley at 5, and he never let anyone forget it. At Auburn, Barkley was a beast, but scouts had concerns. He was listed around 6'6", but played like a center. That size versus position mismatch made teams pause. He was powerful, explosive, and could rebound with the best of them. But his build didn't fit neatly into the usual NBA mold. The draft class was stacked, and teams reached for height or fit instead of just going with dominance. Barkley didn't need long to prove them wrong. He became an 11-time All-Star, won MVP in 1993, and finished his career with over 23,000 points and more than 12,000 rebounds. No ring, but Hall of Fame status locked in. 4 teams had the chance to get all that. They passed. The Sixers didn't, and Barkley made it loud and clear. They missed out. Tony Parker. He was picked 28th overall in the 2001 NBA draft by the San Antonio Spurs. That means 27 players were drafted ahead of him. 27 chances for teams to spot a future Finals MVP, and they didn't take it. Born in Belgium, raised in France, Parker had already played professionally before coming to the NBA, but teams weren't ready to gamble on an international point guard at that range. Scouts liked his speed and decision-making, but doubted whether his size and background would translate. Back then, picking late first-round players from overseas came with a lot of unknowns. The Spurs took the risk, and they cashed in. Parker joined a championship-level roster and didn't just survive, he thrived. By 2007, he became the first European-born player to win NBA Finals MVP. He won 4 NBA titles, made 6 All-Star teams, and spent nearly 2 decades running one of the most consistent franchises in league history. The 27 players picked before him, almost all of them were out of the league long before he was. Teams didn't just pass, they overlooked. The Spurs didn't, and Parker made them all pay for it. Carmelo Anthony. In the legendary 2003 NBA draft, he went 3rd overall to the Denver Nuggets, right after the Detroit Pistons passed on him at pick number 2. The Cavs, at number 1, they took LeBron James, no argument there. But Detroit, they picked Darko Milicic, a teenage center from Serbia, instead of a national champion and NCAA tournament MVP. Anthony had just led Syracuse to the title in his freshman year and looked NBA ready. He's since revealed that the Pistons promised they'd take him, and he believed it, but they pivoted, betting on size and potential. Darko became one of the most infamous draft busts in league history. Carmelo, 10-time All-Star, over 28,000 career points, and one of the greatest scorers of his era. The Pistons did win the championship the very next year without him, but the what if still echoes. What if they'd added a scoring machine like Melo to a defensive juggernaut? 1 pick, 1 decision, 1 superstar passed on. That's the story. Jason Tatum, born in Missouri, played at Duke, declared after just 1 season, and entered the 2017 draft with plenty of hype. But despite his strong college campaign, including bouncing back from a foot injury, 2 teams still skipped right past him. The first pick was used on Markelle Fultz. Then came the second pick, and instead of Tatum, it was Lonzo Ball. So there he was, still available at pick 3, and Boston made the move. That's the moment everything changed. The Celtics had traded to get that pick, and they clearly knew what they were doing. Tatum came in at about 6'8", 210 pounds, and didn't waste any time getting noticed. Since then, he's racked up All-Star nods, landed all NBA honors, and won a championship in 2024. So while Fultz and Ball had their own paths, Tatum's turned into the kind of player teams build around. The Lakers had the chance. So did the team with the first pick. Both said no. And Boston, they've been cashing in ever since. It's a textbook example of how two teams passed on a future franchise star, and the rest is history. Steve Nash. By the time the 1996 draft rolled around, Nash had put together a strong college resume, but teams weren't lining up for him. 14 picks came and went, and every single team passed. Some scouts questioned the competition he faced in college. Others didn't love his athleticism or size. A few thought his defense might not translate. Whatever the reasons, Nash fell all the way to pick 15, where Phoenix finally made the call. At the time, people actually called it a reach. Turns out it was the opposite. Nash became a two-time most valuable player, made 8 All-Star teams, and finished with more than 10,000 assists. His shooting was elite, and he became one of the most efficient point guards in league history. By the end of his career, Nash was sitting comfortably in the Hall of Fame, while most of the guys picked ahead of him were long gone from the spotlight. 14 teams had the shot. None of them took it, and Nash made every one of them regret it. John Stockton. He came out of Gonzaga in 1984, and not a single scout was exactly tripping over themselves to hype. Utah ended up taking him with the 16th pick, which means 15 teams had their chance and just kept on walking. At the time, Gonzaga wasn't a major basketball factory, and Stockton didn't look like someone who'd end up with a statue outside an arena. When his name was called, the crowd in Utah sat there stunned silence, like someone had accidentally turned off the power. Not exactly the hero's welcome, but Stockton didn't care. He went on to play 19 straight seasons with Utah and turned himself into one of the most productive point guards ever. He holds the all-time records for assists with over 15,000 and steals with more than 3,000. He made 10 All-Star appearances and stacked up all NBA honors like it was his side job. He didn't just show up, he ran the show. 15 players went ahead of him in that draft. That's 15 front offices that said, nah, and every one of them watched as Stockton rewrote record books while never wearing another jersey. That's a miss they'll never live down. Joel Embiid. Coming into the 2014 draft, he was considered a top prospect, but concerns over his health pushed him down the board. He'd just had surgery on his right foot, and teams got cold feet fast. Philadelphia scooped him up with the 3rd overall pick, but that meant 2 teams let him slide. Cleveland took Andrew Wiggins first, and Milwaukee followed with Jabari Parker. Both passed on Embiid, even though his talent was obvious when he was on the floor for Kansas. His first 2 seasons were a wash thanks to injuries, which only made the early hesitation seem justified. But then he hit the court in year 3 and changed everything. He became a scoring machine, locked down the paint, and eventually won Most Valuable Player in 2023. He also led the league in scoring 2 years in a row and has made 7 All-Star teams so far. Philadelphia bet on a risk and landed a franchise player. Meanwhile, the 2 teams ahead of them had a clear shot and turned away. Looking back, that gamble on durability now looks like a huge opportunity missed. Embiid did not just bounce back, he dominated. Scottie Pippen, coming out of Central Arkansas, he didn't exactly scream future superstar. The program wasn't well known, and most teams weren't rushing to build around an NAIA forward. Seattle grabbed him with the 5th pick in the 1987 draft, but then immediately traded him to Chicago. So not only did 4 teams skip over him, but the team that actually drafted him gave him away before he ever wore their jersey. That's where it gets brutal in hindsight. Pippen went on to win 6 championships with the Bulls, played in 7 All-Star games, and locked down opponents as one of the best defensive forwards the league's ever seen. He was named to the All-NBA First Team 3 times and made the All-Defense First Team 8 straight years. His averages across more than 1,000 regular season games were 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. Those numbers are solid, but his impact was massive. Chicago didn't just win, they dominated. And the Sonics, they missed out. The 4 teams who picked before him, plus Seattle, all had a shot, and all of them watched as he became a cornerstone of a dynasty. Damian Lillard. He came out of Weber State in 2012 with big numbers, but not much national attention. He wasn't from a major program, and that mattered to teams picking high. Portland took him 6th overall, which means 5 teams skipped him for someone else. Whether it was doubts about his competition level or just not buying into a guard from the Big Sky, those teams made their choice. The interesting part is how quickly Lillard proved them wrong. He won Rookie of the Year his first season, setting a new record for most 3-pointers made by a rookie. From there, he never looked back. He became a regular All-Star, made multiple All-NBA teams, and climbed the scoring chart so fast that by 2022, he was Portland's all-time leading scorer. He didn't need to come from a big-name school to torch the league. He just showed up and started pulling up from 30 feet like it was nothing. And while some of the guys picked ahead of him faded into the background, Lillard built a reputation as one of the most dangerous guards in the game. 5 teams had a shot. Portland got the right one. Karl Malone. He came out of Louisiana Tech in 1985 with strong college numbers but limited national attention. When the draft came around, 12 teams picked ahead of Utah, and every single one of them passed. The Jazz grabbed him with the 13th pick, which turned out to be one of the biggest steals of the decade. Reports said scouts had concerns about his attitude and that his coach didn't exactly sing his praises. That, plus coming from a smaller school in a power forward heavy class, made teams back off. One team, Dallas, was even rumored to be eyeing him before choosing someone else instead. So the slide was real. Malone's response? Nearly 37,000 career points, 2 Most Valuable Player awards, 14 All-Star appearances, and 11 first-team selections. He was a machine, barely missed games, played 18 seasons with Utah, and kept the stat sheet full the entire time. Being drafted 13th doesn't sound outrageous until you see the career that followed. Dozens of teams would have jumped at the chance in hindsight, but back then, they blinked. And Utah landed one of the greatest power forwards ever because of it, Jimmy Butler. After a year at junior college, then 3 at Marquette, scouts had questions. Not about work ethic, but whether his game would scale up. So 29 teams still looked him over. He was picked 30th overall, dead last in the first round, by Chicago. That's 29 missed chances. Butler wasn't flashy out of college. His numbers were steady, around 15 points and 6 boards, but nothing screamed future star. Many teams looked for more upside or went with international prospects. Butler just kept getting better. He worked through limited early minutes, locked in on defense, and kept climbing. Now, he's a multiple-time All-Star, made All-NBA, has led deep playoff runs, and is considered one of the toughest two-way players in the league. No one talks about his draft slot anymore, because it doesn't matter. His impact is miles beyond what most teams expect from the final pick of the first round. So yeah, 29 teams had their shot. And while some of those picks fizzled, Butler became a cornerstone. That's not just a pass. They launched him straight into motivation mode, and he never looked back. Chris Paul. He came out of Wake Forest after 2 strong college seasons and was widely seen as the best point guard in the draft. But in 2005, 3 teams picked ahead of New Orleans and passed on him. He went 4th overall, which made those early decisions stand out. Scouts praised his court vision, defense, leadership, and scoring. One write-up even said there wasn't anything he didn't do well. And still, 3 teams said no thanks. What happened after that? He took over immediately. Rookie of the Year, nearly 17 points per game, close to 8 assists, and over 2 steals. And that was just the beginning. He's now a 12-time All-Star, has led the league in assists 5 times, and led in steals 6 times. His name's all over the league's all-time assist leaderboard. He's also made multiple All-NBA and All-Defense teams across a career that stretched over 2 decades. When someone that complete is available at pick 4 and 3 teams walk past him, that's the kind of draft moment this series is built on. Chris Paul wasn't a hidden gem. He was right there, and they still let him slip. Paul George. Coming out of Fresno State in 2010, he had size, athleticism, and skill, but wasn't playing in the spotlight. He was picked 10th overall by the Indiana Pacers, which means 9 teams looked him over and picked someone else. That's 9 passes on a guy who'd become one of the most complete wings of his generation. At the time, he was considered more of a project. Scouts liked his potential, but questioned if he could deliver at the NBA level right away. His school wasn't a basketball powerhouse, and that may have made teams play it safe, but George hit the league and started checking off boxes, scoring, rebounding, defending, creating plays, and guarding top opponents. Since then, multiple All-Star selections, multiple All-NBA teams, and All-Defense nods. He's been one of the league's best two-way players for over a decade, and according to advanced stats, he's posted the highest win shares in his entire draft class. Looking back, it's hard not to notice those 9 teams missed out. He didn't just meet expectations, he blew past them. George was sitting there at pick 10, and those teams let him fall right into Indiana's hands. Rajon Rondo. He came out of Kentucky in 2006 and got picked 21st overall by the Phoenix Suns. Then on draft night, they traded him to Boston. That's 20 teams who had a clear shot and didn't take him. And to really twist the knife, Phoenix didn't even want him. Their coach admitted they weren't considering him in the first place. Scouts loved his passing and defense, but weren't sold on his scoring. Concerns about his size and jump shot knocked him down draft boards. But Boston didn't hesitate, and it paid off. Rondo became a 4-time All-Star, led the league in assists 3 different seasons, and topped the steals leaderboard once too. He helped Boston win a title in 2008 and added another ring with the Lakers in 2020. That's production, longevity, and high-level impact, especially in playoff settings where he built a reputation as one of the smartest floor generals out there. So those 20 teams, they missed out. Rondo wasn't flashy coming in, but he proved it on the biggest stages. That trade from Phoenix to Boston wasn't just a roster move. It was a full-on steal. Tracy McGrady. He came into the 1997 draft, straight out of high school. No college resume, no tournament exposure, just raw potential. Toronto took him with the 9th overall pick. That means 8 teams went first, looked at him, and passed. One of them, Boston, actually passed twice. They had the 3rd and 6th picks and still skipped him. McGrady even admitted his pre-draft interview with Rick Pitino didn't go great, which might have pushed Boston away. Back then, high school players were still seen as risky. Sure, McGrady had the tools, but teams weren't convinced he was ready. Well, he proved that wrong pretty fast. He became a 7-time All-Star, won back-to-back scoring titles, and landed on 7 All-NBA teams. His career averages were nearly 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists a game. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2017, which pretty much seals the superstar label. So yeah, Boston had 2 chances and passed both times. And the other 7 teams, same story. Meanwhile, McGrady lit up the league for years. It wasn't just a miss, it was 8 misses in a row on a guy who became one of the most gifted scorers of his era. Iman Shumpert. Drafted 17th in 2011, Shumpert came into the league like a ball of energy with actual defense skills. As a rookie, he picked up votes for Defensive Player of the Year and made the All-Rookie First Team. Injuries kept crashing the party, but he still carved out a decade-long career across 5 teams. He won a ring in 2016 with Cleveland and became known for guarding top scorers while playing 3 different positions. Off the court, this guy stayed loud. Music, fashion, and even Dancing with the Stars. He hosted youth camps, launched a clothing line, and managed to stay relevant, even after his last NBA game in 2021. Nune, the first Brazilian drafted in the first round, he hit the league in 2002 and never looked back. He brought power, size, and underrated quickness, carving out a 17-season career with nearly 1,000 games played. Denver fans saw his best years, especially when he led the entire league in field goal percentage. Despite a torn ACL and a testicular tumor, he kept grinding and came back strong. He made an impact in Washington and Houston too, even dropping 28 points on perfect shooting in a playoff game. Known as a respected vet, a great teammate, and a quiet leader, he was the kind of pro every locker room needs. Glenn Davis, Big Baby, brought more than size. He had real game. Drafted in 2007, he landed in Boston and helped them win a championship in his rookie year. He was no star, but he knew how to shine when it counted, like in the 2009 playoffs, where he averaged over 15 points. In Orlando, he had his best run, putting up over 15 points per game in 2013. By the time he joined the Clippers, injuries slowed him down, but he still brought hustle. Fans loved the energy, the emotion, and the moments. Things got messy later, outside the NBA, but his on-court fire left a lasting impression. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm gonna start posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Chris Anderson, undrafted and unbothered, Birdman soared into the league with bounce, tattoos, and pure chaos energy. He played 16 seasons with 5 teams and blocked shots like it was a personal mission. His stint in Denver saw him lead the league in blocks per 48 minutes. And in Miami, he was a key spark during their title run in 2013. He missed 2 full seasons for a suspension, then came back and dunked on doubt. He brought high-effort defense, wild hair, and full-body ink, making him a walking mural with elite rim protection. Fans loved the hustle, the redemption arc, and the unmatched vibe he brought every time he took the floor. Steve Novak, a 6'10" sniper with zero interest in dribbling, Novak turned spot-up shooting into a full-blown career. Drafted in the 2nd round in 2006, he bounced through 10 teams in 11 seasons, but always packed a flamethrower from deep. That 43% from 3 was no joke. During the Linsanity craze in New York, Novak rained triples and flexed like he invented the celebration. He led the league in 3-point percentage in 2012 and still holds the lowest turnover rate in league history. Fans loved him because he stayed ready, stayed chill, and hit daggers. He retired quietly, but now drops takes as a Bucks analyst back home in Wisconsin. Patrick Patterson. Drafted 14th in 2010, Patterson carved out an 11-year NBA career by doing the dirty work and hitting timely shots. He played for 6 teams, including key years with Toronto, where he was a steady piece during their playoff run. He never blew up the scoreboard, but spaced the floor with nearly 37% from three and brought a smart, team-first approach. What I liked most was how he adjusted roles without complaining. Starter, bench guy, whatever. He played 719 games, and you rarely heard a peep. Off the court, he gave back through youth camps and spoke out on social issues. Quietly effective, quietly respected. A real pro's pro. Chase Budinger, a volleyball star turned NBA forward, Budinger dunked his way into fans' hearts with bounce and confidence. Drafted 44th in 2009, he ended up with a 7-year NBA career, mostly with Houston and Minnesota. He averaged nearly 8 points per game, shot over 35% from deep, and once dropped 35 in a game. Injuries slowed him down, especially after meniscus surgery, but his athleticism was undeniable. What really made him stand out later? That wild pivot to Olympic-level beach volleyball. Fans respected the grind, the humble personality, and his dual sport journey. Chase gave everything on the court, and then some on the sand. Ron Baker. Undrafted out of Wichita State, Baker fought his way onto the Knicks roster in 2016 and instantly became a fan favorite. He only played 96 games in the league, but his hustle, defense, and walk-on to pro story had New York buzzing. He averaged just over 3 points a game and shot under 27% from three, but his energy made him stand out. The guy even landed an almost $9 million deal despite limited production. Good for him. He also won bronze at the 2015 Pan Am Games. Post-retirement, he moved into business and wrote a children's book, which is somehow the most Knicks thing ever. Respect the grind, Ron. Larry Sanders. Drafted 15th in 2010, Sanders became a shot-blocking menace with the Bucks. That 2012 season, he averaged nearly 10 boards and almost 3 blocks a game. He even had a triple-double with 10 blocks. But it unraveled fast. Thumb injuries, suspensions, and mental health struggles sidelined his rise. Milwaukee still gave him $44 million, hoping for the best. He briefly came back with Cleveland in 2017, but the spark was gone. Fans loved his raw defense and openness about anxiety and depression. His honesty was rare in pro sports, and he stayed active in mental health and fashion after leaving the game. A real what could have been. Sam Dekker, drafted 18th in 2015, Dekker's NBA ride was stop and go, but his overseas run turned him into a global hooper with hardware. After back surgery derailed his rookie year in Houston, he bounced back with a 30-point outburst in his first NBA start. He logged time with 5 NBA teams, including Cleveland and Washington, averaging just over 5 points per game across 201 appearances. Then came the fun part. He balled out in Russia, Turkey, and the United Kingdom, even snagging MVP honors with the London Lions. Dekker brought hustle, shot making, and steady growth. Wisconsin still claims him like a local legend, and honestly, they should. He made the leap his own way. Quincy Acey. He bounced around the league, but always played like his spot was on the line. I liked how much energy he brought. He wasn't flashy, just tough and reliable. Most fans respected his hustle more than his stats. He found a way to make himself valuable by adding a decent outside shot, which kept him in the league longer than some expected. His stops in Brooklyn and Toronto stood out because he was the ultimate role guy, always doing the dirty work, always supporting his teammates. After the NBA, he moved into coaching, which makes sense with his attitude. He's one of those guys you root for because he never acted like a star. Matt Bonner. The guy was never flashy, but he always found a way to stick. Drafted in the second round, he bounced through Italy before finally getting his NBA debut. Once he landed in Toronto, he quietly put up solid numbers, then got sent to San Antonio, where everything clicked. Bonner turned into one of the most efficient shooting bigs around, knocking down over 40% from deep. He wasn't out there swatting shots or flying around, but his fit in the Spurs system was perfect. He played in nearly 800 games and helped grab 2 titles. And yes, he really did a sandwich review series during road trips. Total wildcard move. Grievous Vasquez. He brought size, flair, and confidence to the point guard spot. Coming out of Maryland with big-time accolades, he entered the league as the first Venezuelan ever drafted. His early years in Memphis were quiet, but once he landed in New Orleans and later Toronto, he really started cooking. That 9.5 assists per game stretch was wild for a guy his size. His passing vision and ability to control tempo made him a fun watch. Ankle injuries crushed his momentum, especially after surgery in Milwaukee. Still, he carved out a solid 7-year career. Now, he's on the sidelines coaching, still repping Venezuela loud and proud, and still connecting with fans everywhere. Anthony Morrow, undrafted out of Georgia Tech, but he showed up ready to light it up from deep. This guy walked into the league and immediately started raining threes, shooting over 41% for his career. He scored 37 points in just his second game ever, which still feels wild. He bounced around the league with 7 teams, always giving teams exactly what they wanted, pure shooting. He was never flashy, never the centerpiece, but you knew what you were getting. His calm demeanor and consistency kept him around for 9 seasons, over 5,000 points, nearly 1,000 made threes, and he never stopped being a problem from the perimeter every time he checked in. Norris Cole. He came in as a late first rounder and walked right into back-to-back championships with Miami. He wasn't the biggest or fastest, but he had real composure and never backed down. He brought energy off the bench, played solid defense, and hit shots when needed. His best stretch came with New Orleans, where he averaged over 10 points a night. Injuries slowed him down later, but he still made his mark across 6 NBA seasons. And he didn't stop there. He kept hooping overseas, dropping buckets in Europe, Asia, and even Puerto Rico. Champion, journeyman, grinder, always brought the effort. Robin Lopez, 17 seasons, over 1,000 games, and a personality that somehow outlasted his stat sheet. He never tried to do too much. He just blocked shots, boxed out, and committed to defense like it was his full-time job. Whether he was battling mascots or mentoring rookies, he had a role that mattered. He was the reliable big guy you threw into the paint to get things done. Never an all-star, but always respected. He signed a huge contract with New York, held it down in Chicago, and kept finding new homes thanks to his steady presence, comic books, chaos, and classic post moves. That's Robin, Yogi Ferrell. Undrafted, but not unnoticed, Yogi turned a 10-day contract into a spotlight moment in Dallas. He dropped 32 points on Portland and got himself a multi-year deal on the spot. He carved out a steady role with the Mavericks, then spent time with Sacramento, Cleveland, and the Clippers. Over 250 games, he averaged just under 8 points and proved he belonged. His quick handles, perimeter shooting, and hustle kept him in rotations despite size disadvantages. Post-NBA, he's been racking up buckets overseas. From Greece to China, he might have flown under the radar, but he stuck around by doing exactly what teams needed: run the offense, shoot the three, and never slow down. Brandon Bass, picked 33rd overall in 2005, he turned a second-round start into a solid 12-year run. Bass was never flashy, but he had that rock-solid jumper and the strength to bang in the paint. He played for 6 different teams and racked up over 750 games. His peak came in Boston, where he was a reliable starter during some deep playoff pushes. Always efficient, he shot just under 50% for his career and hit over 83% from the line. He didn't talk much, just showed up and got buckets. After the NBA, he played in China and Egypt, still bringing that same mid-range fire. Pero antes, he showed up in Atlanta at 31, already a proven EuroLeague champ. Not your typical NBA big, he stretched the floor and played with that veteran toughness. In just over 100 games, he averaged around 6 points and 3 boards. But it was the grit and shooting that kept him in the mix. He played his role without drama, hit timely shots, and gave the Hawks lineup flexibility. After 2 seasons, he went back to Europe and picked up right where he left off. On top of all that, he captained North Macedonia's national team, leading them to a surprise 4th place Eurobasket finish. A short NBA stay, but a respected one. Ben, coming out of Kansas, expectations were high, and while he never became a star, he stuck around for nearly a decade. He brought bounce, a solid jumper, and that smooth release that teams kept calling for. He had his moments, dropping 31 on Phoenix, draining threes in Houston, and keeping things steady in Portland. Injuries, trades, and inconsistency hurt his trajectory, but he always found another roster. His three-point percentage stayed around 36%, which made him valuable as a role player. He never quite met lottery pick expectations, but fans appreciated his resilience, especially after personal tragedies. He's still hooping overseas, showing that even when the league moves on, hoopers keep hooping. Charlie Villanueva, drafted 7th overall, and immediately made noise as a rookie with a 48-point game. That scoring touch never really left. He averaged over 10 points for his career while stretching the floor as an early version of a modern 4. He had big years in Milwaukee, but his role faded after signing a long-term deal with Detroit. Still, he played over 600 games and never stopped shooting. Off the court, he inspired fans by speaking openly about living with alopecia and turned it into advocacy. Between his scoring bursts and work in the Dominican community, Charlie built a legacy that stretched far beyond his stat sheet. A unique presence and a fan favorite. Nikola Pekovic. The Timberwolves rolled the dice on a rugged big man from Montenegro, and for a few years, he was one of the most feared guys on the block. No frills, no finesse, just brute strength, post moves, and more screens than a tech convention. He peaked at 17.5 points per game and grabbed nearly 9 boards a night. Injuries ruined what could have been a longer run, but for 7 seasons, Peck brought serious heat in the paint. His quiet demeanor and hard-nosed play earned him cult status in Minnesota. Even now, fans remember him as the Montenegrin Mauler. All business, no apologies. A Balkan, bruiser through and through. Alonzo Trier. He went undrafted, but didn't waste a second proving he belonged. Trier burst onto the scene with New York, earning a standard contract in just 2 months. That rookie year, he averaged nearly 11 points, while shooting just under 40% from 3. Fans ate it up, especially after he dropped 31 against Houston. They called him ISO Zoe for a reason. His second season saw fewer minutes, and he was waived in 2020, but that didn't stop him. He popped back up in the G League and kept grinding. His scoring instincts were never the issue. It was always about fit. Love him or not, Trier gave the Knicks something to cheer about during rough seasons. Dwayne Bacon, drafted in the second round but carried himself like a first rounder. He showed early flashes in Charlotte, giving them some needed scoring off the bench. His best run came in Orlando, where he averaged almost 11 points and dropped a career-high 28 against his former team. While he wasn't the most efficient shooter, he played hard, attacked the rim, and always looked to get buckets. Fans appreciated the grind. Post-NBA, he didn't slow down, winning titles in France and Greece, then taking his game to Russia. From Florida high school legend to Eurocup champ, Bacon's journey proves you don't need to be a star to leave a mark. Trey Burke. You probably remember the crossover, or the deep pull-up 3. Burke came in hot as a top 10 pick, then spent his first few seasons flashing scoring bursts in Utah. That rookie season earned him all rookie honors, and he kept putting up double digits for years. He wasn't a starting guard for long, but he stayed relevant. Whether it was lighting up the Knicks bench or showing up big in Dallas playoff games, he bounced around, dealt with demotions, and never stopped grinding. By the time he went overseas, he'd played nearly 400 games and earned fans everywhere. A walking bucket, a comeback king, and a certified hooper. Tyler Ulis, listed at 5 feet 10, but played like he was 6 foot 5. The Suns gave him a shot in 2016, and he made the most of it, averaging over 11 points and 7 assists in his starts that year. His vision was sharp, his handles were tight, and his heart was oversized. He never got a long leash, bouncing to Chicago after Phoenix, and then briefly into the G League. Injuries and his size worked against him, but when he was on the floor, he ran an offense like a seasoned vet. Kentucky fans still talk about him like royalty. He didn't last long in the league, but nobody who saw him play forgot him. Aaron, quiet, reliable, and always professional. Basically the opposite of whatever chaos the Knicks had going. When he was there, he carved out an 11-year career as a 3-and-D wing before 3-and-D wings were trendy. Peaked at 18 points per game with Orlando and shot over 38% from deep for his career. That jumper was smooth, and his defense made coaches trust him. He bounced between 6 teams, but Denver was always the best fit. Never flashy, but you don't stick around for over 700 games by accident. He was the definition of a solid pro, and fans respected how he handled his business, year in and year out. Reggie Evans. The man played basketball like he was mad at the ball. Never a scorer, barely cracked 4 points a game. But my God, he rebounded like it was life or death, over 7 boards per game for his career, including leading the league in rebounds per 48 minutes, more than once. He did the dirty work, full stop, no flash, all grit. Teams didn't bring him in to stretch the floor or rack up assists. They brought him in to box out, dive on the floor, and eat glass. He played for 7 teams and never changed who he was. Fans loved him because you never had to wonder what Reggie Evans was bringing. Rodney Stuckey. Coming out of Eastern Washington, he didn't exactly have the big school spotlight, but that didn't stop him from making it 10 seasons in the league. He played both guard spots and could fill it up quick, especially during his Detroit days. His best year, 16.6 points per game, and fans still remember those wild outbursts. He got picked 15th overall, earned all rookie honors, and scored 40 in a game more than once. Injuries chipped away at his later seasons, especially in Indiana, where he never really found his groove, but Stuckey stayed professional, ran youth camps, and kept close to Seattle. No drama, just buckets and effort. Pablo Prigioni. The man made his NBA debut at 35, older than most rookies' assistant coaches, but he earned his spot with sharp passing, smart defense, and almost 40% from deep. His Knicks run was his peak, setting the rookie team record for threes and starting almost half the games one season. Scoring was never his main thing, but he knew how to run an offense and pester ball handlers. After a quick stop in Houston and a short Clippers stint, he went back overseas. He's coached in both the EuroLeague and NBA, and fans in Argentina still see him as part of that golden group. Undrafted, overlooked, but always respected for how he played. Marshawn Brooks. He came in hot, dropping over 12 points a game as a rookie and earning all rookie honors during a forgettable stretch for the Nets. That 27-point night had fans buzzing, but things got bumpy quick. He bounced from Boston to Golden State, then the Lakers, barely sticking anywhere. After vanishing from the league, he clawed his way back in with Memphis, dropping 24 in a game just to remind people he could still score. His defense, not exactly his strong suit, but the guy stayed confident, played hard, and built a solid overseas career. China loved him, Italy still watching him. He never quit chasing buckets, no matter how many doors shut. Festus Ezeli. He didn't even pick up a basketball until he was 15, and 5 years later, he was a first-round pick. That alone had people rooting for him. His best year was with the Warriors in 2015, putting up 7 points, over 5 boards, and a block per game. He helped anchor the defense off the bench during that title run and brought serious rim protection. But injuries hit hard. He missed a full year with knee issues, signed a big deal with Portland, and never played a single game for them. He tried a G-League comeback in 2021, but the knees didn't hold up. Still, that grind from Nigeria to champion? Legendary effort. Chris Copeland. He spent 6 years hooping overseas before getting a shot with the Knicks at age 28. When he finally did, he dropped 33 in a game and shot almost 43% from deep as a rookie. Fans loved his energy, his hustle, and the fact that he didn't waste his shot. His time in Indiana and Milwaukee was less flashy, and a stabbing incident in 2015 cut things short. He bounced back and even kept playing internationally. The guy made it from undrafted to starter, got buckets, and gave underdog fans someone to cheer for with pride. Alonzo G, undrafted, bounced around early, but once he hit Cleveland, he made noise. In 2012, he averaged over 10 points, 5 boards, and was grabbing steals like snacks. He had bouncy dunks, played physical defense, and made fans believe hard work could get you there. He got a decent deal from Denver, but that production faded fast. He ended up playing for 7 different NBA teams, plus stints in Poland, Puerto Rico, and Australia. Not flashy, not a star, but every coach loved his grind. He was a glue guy on bad teams, a hustle guy everywhere else, and a regular in highlight reels for those posters. Steve Blake. He played for 8 teams across 13 seasons and somehow still felt like the same guy everywhere. Steady, smart, and completely unbothered by flash. His game was all about control, dropping dimes and hitting spot-up threes at nearly 38%. He won a national title at Maryland, but never got close in the NBA, unless you count running point for late-era Lakers teams held together with tape. His best stretch came in Portland, where he played 3 separate times like a human boomerang. Never a big scorer, but coaches loved him for knowing when to pass and when to get out of the way. He finished with 870 games and the respect of every teammate. Gerald Henderson. He came in with athleticism and Duke polish, and for a while, he looked like the guy to lead Charlotte through the wilderness. He averaged double digits for 5 straight seasons, even dropped over 15 points a night at his peak. His jumper was solid, his drives explosive, and he played real defense on the wing. After 6 seasons in Charlotte, he did 1-year stints in Portland and Philly, then vanished from the league. Injuries played a part, but fans always saw him as dependable. Not a star, not a bust, just a pro who always gave effort. Sasha Vujacic. The man had a flair for hitting shots at the weirdest, most clutch moments. He carved out a nice run with the Lakers, winning 2 rings and playing his role as an irritant off the bench. His shooting stroke was smooth, nearly 37% from deep, and he hit free throws like he was allergic to missing. He played almost 600 games, never averaging more than 11 points, but always ready when called. After the Lakers, he bounced to New Jersey, the Clippers, then the Knicks, with a couple overseas stops in between. Always a little chaotic, always fiery, and somehow always ending up in key moments. John Henson. He spent most of his 8-year career swatting shots and dunking everything in sight. Milwaukee loved his length and timing. He averaged 1.5 blocks and shot over 55% from the field. He never stretched the floor, but fans didn't care. He was the kind of big who protected the rim and stayed in his lane. His best season came early, with over 11 points and 7 boards a game. Injuries started stacking up, and his role shrank fast in Cleveland and Detroit. But UNC fans cheered him on, and Milwaukee still gives him props for anchoring the paint during the early Giannis years. Not flashy, just tough, and always dependable. Tony Wroten. He brought chaos, sometimes glorious, sometimes confusing, always entertaining. He played 4 seasons and packed them with flair, especially in Philly, where he put up over 16 points a game one year and looked like a cornerstone for 5 minutes. He couldn't shoot threes, but he drove hard, played fast, and pulled off passes that didn't make sense unless they worked. That ACL injury crushed his momentum, and he never really got back. Still, 76ers fans remember the energy during the dark process days, and Seattle fans still ride for him. If nothing else, the dude never played it safe, and that made him unforgettable. Ramon Sessions, 11 years, 8 teams, and one of the smoothest stat lines for a second rounder. He scored in double digits for his career, ran offenses without fanfare, and once dropped 44 points in a game like it was no big deal. He hit 24 assists in another. Coaches trusted him, and teammates leaned on his consistency. He never stuck anywhere long, but he always found a way to contribute, especially in Charlotte, Cleveland, and Washington. No drama, no nonsense, just a pro doing work. Myrtle Beach still reps him hard, and fans remember him as one of the league's most underappreciated floor generals. Steady hands, smart plays, and respect from everywhere he went. Alexei Shved. He hit the NBA with flair, passing wizardry, and a shot that was either pure magic or total chaos. His rookie year in Minnesota showed flashes, averaging nearly 9 points and 4 assists, and fans liked the unexpected chemistry with Ricky Rubio. But his production dipped fast, and he bounced between 4 teams in 3 seasons. Then boom, he dropped almost 15 points a game in 16 outings for the Knicks, turning into a short-lived Colt hero. He declined their offer and jetted back overseas, where he went full superstar. Top scorer in Europe, Olympic bronze medalist, and Russian basketball icon. He never stuck in the NBA, but he left fans with moments worth remembering. Solomon Hill. Not flashy, not loud, but you always knew when he was on the floor. He did the dirty work, defense, hustle, spot up threes, and coaches loved him for it. He had 1 full season as a starter with Indiana, averaging almost 9 points a game, and parlayed that into a 4-year deal from the Pelicans. Injuries hit hard, but he kept coming back. He even made the finals with Miami in 2020, playing meaningful minutes off the bench. He was the type of guy who'd guard 3 positions, take a charge, then give you quiet leadership in the locker room. A real glue guy, just the way fans like it. CJ Miles, 14 years in the league after skipping college, that alone makes him a legend. But he added a sweet jumper and some major scoring runs along the way. His best years came in Indiana, hitting over 40% from deep while starting and closing games. He dropped 40 points once with Utah, but mostly thrived as a 3-point specialist off the bench. Teams kept bringing him back because he fit everywhere. He knew his role and played it sharp. From high school star to NBA veteran, he made a living spacing the floor and keeping defenses honest. Fans loved the reliability, the streaky heat checks, and that buttery smooth lefty stroke. J.J. Hickson. He came into the league with a strong build, bouncy legs, and the kind of mid-range that said, "I don't shoot threes, and I'm proud of it." Cleveland drafted him in the first round, and early on, he was snagging rebounds and dunking like he'd just been insulted. His peak was around 10 points and 7 boards per game, and while he didn't stretch the floor, he did punish it. Portland saw the best of him statistically, but Denver gave him a longer run. He wasn't flashy, just solid inside scoring and hustle. After bouncing around, he left the NBA quietly, but fans still remember that one glorious 31-point game against Chicago. Tyler Hansbrough. You knew he was going to foul somebody within 2 minutes of checking in, and somehow that was endearing. He was chaos in sneakers, diving after everything, like the ball owed him money. Drafted after an iconic run at North Carolina, he never quite found that same dominance in the pros. He gave Indiana a solid bench enforcer, and fans loved the relentless energy. You weren't getting finesse, but you were getting elbows and effort. He never had a breakout season, but he carved out years in the league by just outworking people. The guy was a walking charge call. Jared Dudley. No one ever paid to watch him warm up, but somehow he always made the roster. He wasn't the fastest or most athletic, but he was always there. He hit threes at a near 40% clip and talked more on defense than some head coaches. From Phoenix to Brooklyn to winning a title with the Lakers, he became the guy teammates leaned on, not for buckets unless he was open, but for glue guy leadership and smart plays. He played over 900 games by just being really, really decent at everything. Somehow, that turned into a 14-year career and a ring. Derek Williams. Drafted 2nd overall. Expectations were sky high, but his career never quite hit that level. He bounced around 6 different NBA teams in 7 seasons, showing flashes of talent, but never consistency. Williams had the athleticism, could throw down dunks that got the crowd loud, and early on, he looked like a future star. But the shooting, just not reliable enough. His defense, pretty shaky. After Minnesota and Sacramento, it turned into a string of short-term deals. Still, he found ways to contribute, especially overseas. Fans liked his attitude, his hustle, and how he stayed involved in the community. For a role player, he definitely left a lasting impression. Marcus Thornton. Picked in the 2nd round, Thornton made noise right away with 14.5 points per game as a rookie. He wasn't just a spark, he could flat out score. His best stretch came with Sacramento, where he dropped over 18 a game in his first full season. That 42-point explosion in 2014? Wild. His shot was legit, hitting over 36% from deep in his career. He bounced around a lot. Boston, Phoenix, Houston, Washington, Brooklyn. But that microwave scoring stuck with him. The defense? Yeah, not great, but his story's what hit hardest. From junior college to NBA starter, he fought for it. Fans in Louisiana never forgot. Shane Larkin. At just 5'11", he had to scrap for every chance he got, but the guy had speed and court vision that popped. After bouncing between 4 teams in 4 seasons, his best run came in Brooklyn, where he averaged over 7 points and 4 assists per game. He even dropped 14 dimes in a game once. The defense wasn't exactly his strength, but his energy was constant. His time in Boston included a playoff run, but it was overseas where he really blew up. 2 EuroLeague titles, a Turkish League MVP, and a national team spot? Yeah, he made noise. From son of a Hall of Famer to EuroLeague star, Larkin made his own mark. Jordan Farmer, hometown guy turned 2-time champ, Farmer gave Lakers fans exactly what they love: speed, swagger, and threes off the bench. Drafted 26th in 2006, he carved out a 10-year run with stops in New Jersey, Memphis, and even the Clippers, though that one didn't last. His best seasons came early with Los Angeles, where he played real minutes in back-to-back title runs. He never put up huge numbers, but the guy knew his role. With a career average of nearly 8 points and close to 3 assists, he delivered when called on, tossing 37% shooting from deep and solid defense hustle, and fans respected the grind. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.